Here we go on a Thursday edition of the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And, of course, you can watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search 973 ESPN. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning is producing today's show. You out there? What's up? The Phillies lost last night. I don't know what more you can really take from that other than the bullpen was not good. Is that new? Was I wrong in what I witnessed last night? Did I get that wrong? Somehow, some way, Joe Girardi went to the mound, right? Joe Girardi went to the mound and said it was a good idea to summons Neftali Phillies into the game, who actually lowered his ERA from 40.50 to 36 last night. But he thought that was the right move. Interesting. Bold move. Phillies bullpen blows it again last night. Nola was not great, by the way. He got into the fifth. He gave up 9 hits. He had 11 strikeouts again. When did Aaron Nola turn into Steve Carlton all of a sudden? Striking out, he's well on his way to 3,000 strikeouts, it seems like. Nola was very good in strikeouts. He was not very good in anything else. 9 hits, 7 runs. Very Nola-esque this season. His ERA, 4.44 for Aaron Nola. Simply not getting the job done. That's probably the biggest disappointment from last night. Girardi goes to Felice in the fifth, who gives up 2 hits and a run. And obviously the rain happens. When they come back from the rain, it's 5-5 at that time. And unfortunately, they couldn't get out of it. I mean, they have Neris comes in. He gets hit around. De Los Santos pitched pretty well. Brogdon tried to hold on, gave up a run, and every time they tried, I mean, they just kept falling further and further away. You saw it was 10-6. They get the home run from Harper, and then as soon as they get the home run from Harper to kind of close the gap, they cough it right back up with Brogdon to make it 11-6, and that's your final last night. This Phillies team, this is what they are. Not a good team, not a good bullpen, inconsistent ace. If you want to say Nola's still your ace, I think it's Wheeler at this point, obviously. You get down early in the game, you give up a home run to Joe Panic, of all guys. I mean, come on, man. Joe Panic takes a yard to get the first run on the board. Harper gives you a home run, okay. Maton triples. You got a 3-1 lead. Now it's 4-1 in the second with your ace on the mound. And Nola can't hold it. Gives up a homer. Segura gets the run right back. So now it's 5-2. Okay, ace, hold this for me. 5-2 lead at home. You're my ace. Hold it for me. And he just could not do it last night. I mean, it is ridiculous that they cannot find out ways to put away this Miami Marlins team. You have Aaron Nola at home, a 5-2 lead, and he just could not do it. He gives up a RBI to Cooper, Rojas singles, then Sanchez singles. It's 5-5. They have to get him out of the game. Panic again gets you. And then after the delay, they give up a couple more. It was just a comedy of relief pitching last night between Felice and Neris, who just could not get anybody out again last night. But if you're looking at, in basketball or football or whatever, we'll say, who's the guy to blame? It's Nola. Aaron Nola last night is the number one star of the blame game last night. Your ace is on the mound at home with a lead and can't beat Florida or Miami. You can't do it. He has 11 strikeouts. He gives up 9 hits and 7 runs at the end of the day. I don't understand how Aaron Nola doesn't have the focus from game. How does he not build off the game that he had last week and say, all right, I'm building off. Now, he did strikeout-wise. I'll give him credit for that. But, look, this Marlins lineup, how do they keep beating you? And I got to address Bohm at third. The error he makes late in that game, it's a double play ball. If a little league third baseman in Williamsport makes that error, his dad is saying, I have to sit you. At what point? Like, I like Bohm. Okay, I like Bohm. I think he's having a bad year, to be honest with you. He's shown some flashes recently with the bat, but he has not been the hitter that I hoped he would be. I think his defense, almost like Ben Simmons at this point. Bohm's defense is now creeping into his offense. He knows he's hurting the team so bad defensively. He has 12 errors at third base. 12. The error last night was, Little League-esque. Ball is belt high. All he has to do is field it, and it's a double play, and they're out of the inning. Like, if I'm Hector Neris, I'm looking over at him like, are you serious, dude? And you saw Joe Girardi last night, like, telling him, calm down, man. Calm down. I get it. It's not your fault. There's nothing you can do about it. But that ball that Bohm doesn't field is just a microcosm of everything on this team. I like Bohm. You can't keep playing him at third base, though. You can't. You can't keep sending a message to your team that that's okay. That 12 errors is okay. Find a way to get better. Coach, I need to go down to the minors and work on my game. Admirable. I don't want to send you down there, Alec, but if that's what you think is going to help, maybe that's what we need to do. Problem is they have nobody else. They don't have another third baseman anywhere. You're going to play Brad Miller at third base. You're going to play Luke Williams every day at third base. You're going to go through the same crap. So the lack of depth in the Phillies organization is a problem because they have to play Bohm at third base. Now, your other option could be you could play Bohm at first base, and maybe if you're Dave Dombrowski, you pick up the phone and say, hey, I have a first baseman who was 0 for 2 last night with 2 strikeouts. He's hitting .223. His on-base percentage is .298. Anybody want him? There's your problem. I'm not sure Rhys Hoskins. We talk about value. People talk about Ben Simmons' value is not where people think it should be or where it is. Oh, his value's low after watching him play in the playoffs. The problem has now become with Rhys Hoskins that his value may not be there any longer. He's the one guy on this team that we said, maybe you could try to trade him and just kind of reposition, get some more younger players in here. You might not be getting that anymore from Rhys Hoskins. His value may be too low. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. That's the text board. Somebody texts in, a lot of the hits allowed by Nola were bloopers. He actually had pretty good stuff last night. Yeah, he did have good stuff last night. 11 strikeouts says he had good stuff last night. But again, I get it. They're bloopers and it's this there. He gave up 9 hits in 4 innings last night. He basically, I'll give Girardi some credit. I think he tried to stick with Nola longer than he normally would have because he simply just knows his bullpen's so bad that he doesn't want to have to go to him that early. But for Nola to not be able to simply get through 5 innings as the ace, it's unacceptable. And I don't want to say this team needs you. This team doesn't need anything. They stink out loud. So if they beat the Marlins last night, they're 38-40 instead of 37-41. Gee, wonderful. They're 5 games back with the same problems every night. At least they're consistent. They play awful defense and have a terrible bullpen every night of the week. They're inconsistent offensively. They've given up. They're a minus 24. The 2 teams in the National League East that have a minus run differential are the Phillies and Mets. The Mets, who just can't score. The Mets are like the Knicks. They play great defense and pitch, and they're an awful offensive team. You know who's going to win this division? It's going to be Washington. Washington is the team that nobody thought would be any good this year, and they've won 8 out of 10, and it feels like they're the team in this division that's finally saying, all right, we'll take it. We'll see. This division's still up for grabs. On Monday's show, we're going to do the state of the Phillies. Bob Wankel's going to join me. In the 2 o'clock hour, we're going to do Phillies. In the 3 o'clock hour, we're going to do Sixers. In the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to do Eagles. And in the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to have a little special ballpark tour on Monday's show. But one of the things that, we probably talk about is, look, the All-Star break is coming up. The Phillies are going to be probably 4, 5, 6 games back. Their schedule lightens up right after the All-Star break. They've had a pretty difficult schedule. I'll give them that. They've played a pretty difficult schedule. Can they, after the All-Star break, okay, I'll read it for you. You guys tell me. Now, the rest of the way here, they've got San Diego. They play the Marlins tonight. They play San Diego for 3 at home tomorrow. They got a 4-gamer against the Cubs at Wrigley and a 3-gamer at Fenway. This is a tough end of the month, start of the month here. Miami, who has perpetually beaten you. Now, you do have Wheeler tomorrow against San Diego, so you're hoping to maybe squeeze a game out of them. But you're playing San Diego, who I think most people think is a playoff team. San Diego, right? Well, Josh says, oh, yeah. But keep in mind that they are in 3rd place currently in the West. They could be a wild card team. Absolutely. They are the wild card right now. But they play San Diego, who is a wild card team right now. They play Chicago, who's in the race for a wild card spot. And they play Boston, who is the best team in the American League. So they have a bunch of games before the All-Star break here that could find them to be, I wouldn't be surprised if they got to the All-Star break. They're 5 out now. I wouldn't be surprised if they got to the All-Star break and they were 10 back. I wouldn't be surprised at all with that schedule. Now, if they're 5 back, if they stay where they are, if they just kind of hang around here, this is where they jump out of the second half of the season. Miami, who has given them all sorts of problems nonstop. The Yankees, who are a dumpster fire right now. 4-gamer against Atlanta, right in your division, right in your wheelhouse. Washington, 4-gamer. Now, these are all at home, Atlanta and Washington. You have an 8-game homestand with 2 teams in your division. You have got to go 6-2, 5-3 at worst during that run. You got a bad Pittsburgh team. You're back at Washington for 4. And then you play the Mets for 3. That is your month of July and the first week of August. It could be a very definitive part of their season. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Sports Bash Live here on a Thursday edition. So that's where the Phils were last night. And look, I think the Phillies have an unenviable situation here. Dave Dombrowski has a you ever feel when you, like, this happens to me all the time. I open up my car door and somehow, you know what happens? There's a spider web there and it grows right across my face. And you ever try to get the spider web off your face? It's like, feels like it's constantly all over your face all day long. I have this back door on my kitchen. You open the door, and right outside the door is like the recycle bins. So, you have a beer or a soda or a water or whatever. You drink it, and you throw it right outside. I open up that door, and as soon as I put my face, there's this huge spider web there every single day. I'll take the web down. It goes right back up. That's the Phillies roster right now. That's the Phillies organization. How does Dave Dombrowski untangle the spider web that's constantly across his team's face right now? I don't know. So I want to ask you guys out there. I suggest picking up the phone and you call everybody for Rhys Hoskins. Here's the problem. I said that 2 weeks ago. He was hitting 240. He's now hitting 228. His value is sinking like a stone. So I want to get your help. You guys be Dave Dombrowski. Bless you. You guys be armchair general manager. What is the move the Phillies have to make? 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. Hit me up on the text board if you're listening today, because this is a tangled mess. They have to do something. You cannot stay status quo at the trade deadline. You cannot do it. So, if I was to ask you guys, you are Dave Dombrowski. You are my armchair general managers. Everybody in the listening audience, text me, what is the first move this team needs to make? 609 403 0973. The first move this team needs to make to get on the right path is what? I still say it's try to trade Rhys Hoskins, because to me, it's the only move that makes any sense. I don't want to say it makes the only move that makes any sense. That's not fair. It's the only realistic move that makes any sense. Trading Bryce Harper is unrealistic. It's not happening. Nobody's taking that contract at this stage. He still has, you ready for this? He still has 10 years left on the deal. And this isn't, wow, you made a mistake signing him. It's, hey, this is the decision that you made. You decided you wanted to get in the Bryce Harper game. I get it. They've made a lot of money off of having Bryce Harper on this team. He sells a ton of jerseys. He's widely popular. He makes them relevant. Sports is a business. It's about relevancy. But he's not going to make your team a winner. You're not a winner because Mike Trout's on your team. That doesn't mean Mike Trout stinks. Baseball is a game where having a winning player or a star player, it's not like basketball. You can't just put LeBron James on a team in baseball, the equivalent, and all of a sudden that team's good. Basketball, you put LeBron James on any team in the league, they're good. If LeBron James on the Orlando Magic, they're good. They're going to make the playoffs at worst. At worst, they're the 8th seed. You put LeBron James on Cleveland, they're in the playoffs. You put LeBron James on Houston, they're in the playoffs. Maybe not Oklahoma City. They were pretty bad. But you put LeBron James on any basketball team, they're going to make the playoffs. You can't just put Mike Trout on a team. You just can't put Bryce Harper on a team. And then all of a sudden, wow, you're going to win. But trading Bryce Harper is not on the table. It's not happening. And I would go as far as to say trading JT Realmuto is not happening either. The Phillies got backed into a corner with JT Realmuto that they can't get out of. They had to do something. They panicked and gave Realmuto way too much money. And guess what? JT's good. I like JT. This isn't Mike Gill hates JT Realmuto. No. JT Realmuto is probably a top 5 catcher in baseball. But 264 with 7 home runs, that's not worth the money that he just signed for. And guess what? You're going to be saying that over the life of this deal. You're going to be talking about this. Keep in mind, this is JT Realmuto, okay? This is JT Realmuto at, what's JT now, 30? This is JT Realmuto at 30. What's JT going to look like at 33? What's that contract going to look like at 33? He's making $20 million this year, 23.8 next year, 23.8 the following, 23.8 the year after, 23 point. You see what I'm saying? In 2025, he'll be making $23.8 million. So for all the people, sign JT, sign JT, sign JT, wasn't a good move. It wasn't a smart move. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash Live. So I ask you this question. I need your help with this because if I give out my blueprint, I'm wrong, or I don't like Reese Hoskins. So let me hear your blueprint. What is the first move the Phillies have to make to turn this thing around? Because it's a disaster, it's a mess, and it's almost unfixable. I don't envy Dave Dombrowski, but I'll tell you what, right now, I feel that he might have missed the boat on the first step. So how do you fix it? 609-403-0973 on the text board, 609-403-0973. What's the first move Dave Dombrowski has to make to fix this Phillies franchise? Let me know. This is the Sports Bash. I am Mike Gill. Coming up, Todd Rank today at 3:40 on the Bash. Keith Smith inside the NBA at 3:20 today. Adam Kaplan has football at 4, and we got a lot more to do. Plus, we will get back into answering all your questions from yesterday. 5 movies you are certain you've seen at least 10 times. I have so many text messages I didn't get to yesterday that I want to read off today, okay? But first, the first move the Phillies have to make is what? 609-403-0973. 226 on a Thursday. I asked you, all right, you be the GM of the Phillies. The first move the Phillies have to make to fix this mess is blank. 609-403-0973 on the text board. 609-403-0973. Shoot me a text at Mike Gill Show on Twitter. Read some of the text board off. Mike, Gene Segura, Hector Neris, Mickey Moniak. Well, why would you think anybody wants those guys? Like, that's the first move you came up with. I totally respect you participating, but you think anybody, not to mention you included A.J. Puck in the deal. You think anybody's giving you anything of substance for Gene Segura and Hector Neris? Segura and Neris collectively could get you maybe a fourth double-A pitcher. Nobody wants those guys. If you don't want them, what makes you think the A's want to give up anything of substance for them? I admire the attempt, but you had to know when you hit send that wasn't getting through the smell test. I mean, that one there, come on. A.J. Puck, by the way, is a guy who was a first-round draft choice, right? He was a first-round pick. He's been hurt a lot this year. You think they're going to give up A.J. Puck to take on Gene Segura, who, look, he's having a great year. He really is. But Gene Segura is 31 years old. You think they want – you're not getting anybody who has any substance at all. Any guy you're getting, right, that if you're trading Didi, Segura, Neris, any guy, if you're trading any of that level of player, right, you are not getting anybody back that you've heard of. Sorry to tell you. You're not getting a prospect of any significance, and you're not getting any player that you've actually heard of. It's just not happening. So, yeah, if you're telling me the first move to fix this mess is Gene Segura, you could trade Gene Segura. You're going to get back a single-A arm, a double-A arm. That's it. And they're not going to be a high-level single-A arm or a double-A arm. They're going to be a low-level single-A arm or a double. Now, you might get a mid-level single-A arm for Segura, like right now. But you're not getting anybody of substance. Now, you mentioned Dalton Jeffries, who's another right-handed pitcher who was drafted in the first round. You're not getting a guy who has any type of potential, like potential. That's what I should say. You're not getting a guy with potential. They're not giving you two guys that were drafted in the first round for a 31-year-old second baseman. So that's not happening, but I appreciate the text. Mulligan from Dennisville says, the JT Realmuto signing was just like the Tobias Harris signing. We knew it was bad, but we had no other option. Yeah, I think you could say that. That's fair. But there's a lot of fans out there that said, you got to sign JT. Sign JT. You got to sign JT. And I kept telling you, no, you don't need to sign JT. JT's going to get paid too much money. Good player, not great player. He's the player that when you have him on your team, you're probably a team that says, we're just okay. He's a guy who's going to hit 280 with 15 home runs. Yeah, you might say that's the best catcher in baseball, but just because he's the best player at that position doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to help your team win. There's a lot of reports starting to kind of surface that he doesn't call a good game, that has something to do with why the pitching in the bullpen has been so erratic. I said, if you remember, and James McCann, who signed with the Mets, is hitting 242 with 7 home runs. I said, go out and get James McCann. way less money. McCann signed for $8 million this year, $8 million next year, $12 million and $12 million. So the contract's cut in half, and the production's essentially the same. He's hitting 242 with 7 home runs, a 686 OPS, which is not all that good. But on the flip side, you've got JT Realmuto right now, who is making double the money, right? And he's hitting 20 points higher, 264. They both have 7 homers. His OPS is 797. That's significantly better. But for half the money extra, pass. I like JT. I think he's a guy that if for less money, if you add him for James McCann's contract, I don't mind. Let's see. Mike, send all the relievers down, bring up everyone. That's the first move you're making to fix this mess, is bring up the guys in AAA and put them in your bullpen. Mike, the farm team needs all new coaches. These guys are not ready for prime time. I can't really speak on their minor league coaching system. I do think development has been a problem, but I cannot sit here and tell you that the best move to make is to bring up the entire minor league bullpen of the AAA Iron Pigs. Quite frankly, I don't think their bullpen's very good either. I mean, let's see. Who said it the other day? The Iron Pigs have been a team that, realistically are they're, Mickey Moniak, Ruben Tejada is their best hitter. Ruben Tejada is their best hitter. Ruben Tejada's hitting 238, and I'm not kidding when I tell you he's their best hitter. Mickey Moniak's at 209. Now you're saying, okay, that's the hitters. What about the pitchers? All right, the pitchers. The pitchers are not very good, right? It's a shame. It's sad that the pitching staff at Lehigh Valley has been that bad too. So you have no help at that level. They are the worst pitching staff in AAA. And I did not just make that up. Oh, excuse me. No, they're the worst hitting team in AAA. Pitching-wise, they are 16th out of 20. They have an ERA of 5.21. So there's not a lot of help at that level either. So look, I asked for the first move you would make to fix this team, and you told me to bring up the AAA bullpen. Get better scouts. Now, that one at least has some substance to it, but that's not fixing this mess. That's helping future possibilities, but it's not fixing this mess. Give me some better ones. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Here's my question, okay? You guys are the GM. I'm letting you play because when I play, I'm wrong. You know more. So I'm letting you guys play. So far, if I have to judge your answers, not good. Gene Segura is tradable. You're not getting anything of substance. Keep that in mind. The question is, what's the first move the Phillies have to make to fix this mess? Not, well, they can trade Segura. Yeah, I know you can trade Segura. That's not fixing the mess. That's just pushing the mess from the middle of the room to the corner. Right? I got a pile of clothes. Clean your room. I kick it into the corner. Well, it's not in the middle anymore. That's essentially what trading Segura does. What's the move that is the first step in fixing this mess? 609-403-0973. At Mike Gill Show on Twitter. I see some tweets coming at me. Text message board 609-403-0973. Sports Bash brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. For great deals on Acura's award-winning lineup, shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. All right, 2:40, 20 till the top. Coming up in just about 40 minutes from now, Keith Smith, NBA. The NBA Finals have a team in it. The Phoenix Suns are heading to the NBA Finals. Chris Paul, always the guy that could never get there. He's now there. And Game 5 tonight, 2-2. No Giannis. He is out tonight for the Bucks. Don't know about Trae Young yet. Questionable for the game. But Giannis is officially out for the game tonight. Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill, at Mike Gill Show. Follow me on Twitter. We ask you simple questions. Not simple, actually. It's a hard one. You're the GM. The first move the Phillies have to make to fix this mess is blank. Over on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show, Brett H., at Brett the Jet 2890. It's a great name. Brett the Jet 2890 says, fire Joe. Let Dombrowski do whatever he wants. Harper, Nola, Realmuto, Wheeler should be the only ones not on the trade block. Blow this thing up, be bad for a few more years, get some talent. If not, this team will be bad for 10 more years. Well, Brett H., Brett the Jet, 2890, it sounds like you would like to go through somewhat of a process. Am I right about that? It sounds like blow this up, be bad for a few more years. Well, the problem is you keep Nola and Wheeler and Harper and Realmuto. You can't do that. So you only want to go halfway into being bad for a few more years. Or you think Bryce Harper, for 10 more years of his contract, wants to go through stripping this thing down and being bad? Hey, I get what you're saying. The premise is fine, but you got to either go all the way in or all the way. You're stuck in the middle here. You got to either go all in or you're stuck in the middle. They went all in when they signed Bryce Harper. They went all in. So they can't go and do what you're saying. And you don't even want to do what you're saying because you're saying, well, keep Realmuto, keep Wheeler. Can't do that. You think Wheeler, Realmuto, Nola, and Harper want to play on a team that's going to be bad, admittedly bad for multiple years? You know that, and I know that. That ain't the case. But I appreciate the well-thought-out tweet at Mike Gill Show. Let's read some more text. 609-403-0973. This one's admirable. The first move the Phillies have to make to fix this mess is get Rhys Hoskins a pair of sunglasses he'll wear on his eyes. Yeah, that was pretty embarrassing that he dropped the ball the other day with the glasses on his head. Another text message, the process. Hey, to me, that's your best option of getting good is being really bad. The problem is this team can't do it. I advocate it for the Sixers. I don't think I can advocate it for the Phillies. I can't advocate the process or a process or being really bad for the Phillies because they have Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, and Aaron Nola. You can't go down that road with those contracts. You got four guys who are fish out of water then. More text messages, 609-403-0973. Mike Girardi isn't going anywhere, so the first step is firing both the hitting and pitching coaches for a fresh perspective. This obviously isn't working. They've done that already. This is a new pitching coach from last year, which is a new pitching coach from the year before. Remember, Kapler brought in a pitching coach. They fired him after 1 year. They had a different pitching coach last year, and now this is another different pitching coach. Last year they had Brian Price. This year they have Caleb Cotton. The year before that it was, what was his name? The guy who was the pitching coach under Kapler was a young guy. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. But they've had three different pitching coaches. Why do we always want to fire the coaches? For a fresh perspective. It's the same pitchers. They've had the same pitchers. I mean, the bullpen guys, they're all here, there, everywhere. But you can't fire the pitching coach every year. The pitching coach has been different for 3 years in a row, maybe even 4, to be honest with you. They might have had 4 pitching coaches in 4 years. Brian Price was the pitching coach last year. He basically retired because he didn't like the way the game was going, Brian Price. They brought this Caleb Cotman in, and, I mean, he's a young guy. That comment there tells you, like, everybody always wants to blame the coach, the manager. It's the coach's fault. It's the manager's fault. Coach's fault. It's the manager's fault. We never want to give them credit. Ty Lue, he's terrible, right? He's a terrible coach. It's all Doc Rivers' fault. Well, Ty Lue stinks. He won a title here. It's this guy. Joe Girardi won a World Series. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Gabe Kapler's terrible. He's got the best team in the league. Stop blaming the coaches. The Phillies pitching isn't talented enough. It's not the pitching coach. They've had 4 different pitching coaches. They had Chris Young and Rick Kranitz were the pitching coaches under Kapler. Last year was Brian Price, and this year it's Caleb Cotman. They've had 4 pitching coaches in 4 years. You want to fire the pitching coach again? Is the pitching coach the problem for Zach Wheeler? Is the pitching coach the problem for Zach Eflin? No. It's not the pitching coach's fault. 609-403-0973. Now, Chris Corchiani, is he the guard from North Carolina State? Can you imagine, like, Chris Corchiani from NC State's in the listening audience right now and gave me the best answer of the day? Mike, trade Aaron Nola and Rhys Hoskins. Thanks, Chris Corchiani. Chris, ding, 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 ding. You're the winner. It's not the first move. It's the only move. It's the only move. Trading Rhys Hoskins and Aaron Nola are the only moves. That's it. There's no other moves that can be made. That's why it's a tangled mess. That's why it's a web that gets stuck across your face, because you can't do anything else. You got to just peel the web off your face every single time you walk right through the spider web. It's the only move they can make. You can't trade Gene Segura. Can't trade D. You can trade Gene Segura. You're not getting anything back in return. You can trade Didi Gregorius. You're not getting anything back in return. You can trade Andrew McCutchen. You're not getting anything back. All those guys can be traded, but they're not fixing this problem. There's 2 contracts up at the end of the year, McCutchen and Herrera. You're going to have 2 spots open in the outfield. How do you fill them? Didi's back next year. I'm not 100% sure. Let me look at Segura's contract situation, because Segura is having a good year. The problem is he's 31 years old. You're not getting anything back for Segura. So all of the answers that have to do with Gene Segura, they're not. He's not getting anything back. Like, you guys have to understand that. That's the way sports works. You have a 31-year-old guy, Gene Segura, who's having a good year. Yes, people want him. No, they don't want to give up anything for him. He's got a contract next year paying him $14.25 million. And $17 million the following year with a club option. So the team that gets him is getting him for 1 more year. The only answer is Chris Corchiani's answer. It's the only answer that makes any sense. Trading Aaron Nola and trading Rhys Hoskins. It's the only thing that is logical. It's the only thing this team can do. And I'm not even sure that trading Rhys Hoskins gets you anything back now. That's the problem. You've gone down to the abyss with him. But firing the pitching coach, that's not helping. Firing the hitting coach, that's not helping. Firing the manager, that's not helping. They need a complete overhaul of the minor league system. They constantly have to keep spending money because they have no one in the system. That's why they have to get Gene Segura and pay him. That's why they have to get Didi Gregorius and pay him money. That's why they had to go get Andrew McCutchen and pay him money. That's why they had to give an exorbitant amount of money to Bryce Harper. That's why they had to go out and pay JT Realmuto, because they don't have anybody in their system. That's why they have to get Archie Bradley. That's why they have to get Jose Alvarado. That's why they have to get Sam Coonrod. They don't have anybody of their own. So when I say, what's the first move to fix this mess? The options are very, very limited on how to do it. 609-403-0973. Mike, trade Harper, Nola, and Wheeler for some young arms. That's our only hope. Well, Harper you can't trade. Can't trade Harper. And it's not that I'm not saying I wouldn't trade Harper. No one's taking that contract. You want to hear the contract? Bryce Harper? 2022, $26 million. 2023, $26 million. 2024, $26 million. 2025, $26 million. 2026, $26 million. 2027, $26 million. 2028, $26 million. 2029, $22 million. 2030, $22 million. 2031, $22 million. In 2031, he's still getting $22 million. No one's taking that deal on. They're not paying him for 10 more years. You're going to pay him for 10 more years. He's 28 years old. He'll be 38 years old in 2031, making $22 million. I don't hate Bryce Harper. You had to sign that deal. I get it. But you can't trade him now. And every move you make is centered around Bryce Harper makes that money, which means I can't tank. I can't go through a process. I can't do that stuff because I signed him to that deal. And the only reason he came here is because I promised him that we would constantly try to be good. You could trade Nola. Wheeler, I'm not sure. Wheeler, the Wheeler contract is one of the best contracts in baseball. Wheeler is in the Cy Young conversation if it's not for Jacob deGrom. You don't want to trade Wheeler's contract. I mean, the only reason you would trade that if you're tanking, if you're completely bottoming out. He's only making, he makes $22 million this year, 26 next, 24 the following, and 23 after that. That's a bargain for what he's doing. Got a 2.20 ERA and a 9.7 WHIP. For God's sakes, he's one guy you got to say, I'll keep him on my team. But Nola's one. I'll give you Nola. 609-403-0973. We should have kept Kapler. It's the player's fault. I'm with you, Gil. I don't think Kapler was the right guy. I just don't blame him for all the problems this team have. I thought Kapler made a lot of mistakes. He was a new coach, but I don't think he was the problem. We just constantly want to blame the coach. It's very obvious that Kapler is capable of winning. Give him good players. So the fans around here want to constantly blame the coach. I don't understand it. I do kind of understand it. I understand like the mindset, but it's not accurate. It's not the coach's fault. 609-403-0973. I got more text messages coming in. I will read them on the other side. If you want to hit me up on my text board, 609-403-0973, 609-403-0973. You fix the Phillies. The first move you make in fixing the Phillies would be blank. 609-403-0973. Simple. Fix them. Help me. How do we do it? Let's do this together. And then we'll send these all up to Dave Dombrowski, and maybe they'll get it done for us. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You be the GM. The first move the Phillies have to make to fix this mess is fill in the blank. All right, hour two of the Sports Best. Keith Smith will join me in 20 minutes to take a look at tonight's NBA. And then the Suns are in the finals. What's the message there to the rest of the league? Text messages are coming in on how to fix the Phillies. I've seen a couple good ones. Some of them are a little not helpful, I guess is the way to say it. I mean, I'm trying to be nice, but they're not helpful. You can't trade Gene Segura and tell me that's the first step in fixing the Phillies. It would help get him out of here, but all right, now what? We're going to play Brad Miller at second base the rest of the way. They don't have a second baseman in the system. I guess maybe Bryson Stott. You can move him to second. But just simply trading Gene Segura isn't fixing this team. It's not because the return's not there. You're not getting a return for him. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. Kyle Dubray says we blame the coach because it's easier to fire coaches than it is players. That's just a lazy answer, though, Kyle. It's easier to blame the fire coaches. That doesn't mean it's their fault. You're just saying, well, you can't fire the players, so it's got to be the coach's fault. No, it's not the coach's fault. So we just fire coaches because the players stink? No, that's the problem. The fans just constantly blame, oh, Girardi, he's horrible. Girardi's not having a good year. But guess what? Kyle Dubray, if you were in Girardi's spot and you put in any of those bullpen arms, you'd suck too. I mean, you could be Casey Stengel, for God's sakes. If you had to go to Neftali Feliz, you're going to stink. Now, I don't think Girardi's pushed all the right buttons, but it's hard to push buttons when those buttons are broken. When you try to turn on a light switch and you flick it up and nothing happens, you did the right thing. Unfortunately, the light bulb was out. That's the Phillies bullpen. Sometimes he flips up the light switch. There's nothing to turn on. I mean, Girardi essentially has to be perfect every night. He's got to be perfect every single night. And if he's not perfect, if he's just a slim off, which happens with this team, the margin of error is just simply so small. 609-403-0973. Over back to the text board. Some more text messages coming in. No, this one's well thought out. Mike, first move, you have to let this season play out. They aren't getting any value for any trades right now beyond Nola, which doesn't move you closer to a playoff team. The universal DH is probably coming next year, which would allow Bohm to move to first and Hoskins to DH or trade. They have McCutchen $15 million, Bradley $6 million, Neris $5 million, Velasquez $4 million, Miller $3.5 million, Kinsler $3 million, Moore $3 million coming off the books to allow rebuilding the bullpen and possibly pursue Jose Ramirez. Now, that's a well-thought-out text message. Yes, that's the first thing, is probably letting this season play out. However, I think you can jump ahead of that. This season's a waste. They're not winning a World Series with this team. Yeah, they're not making the playoffs with this team. Come on. If you have offers for Rhys Hoskins right now, you've got to move him and fast track Bohm getting off third base. You cannot keep playing Bohm at third base this year. So the first move, I like what you're saying. Let this season play out. I agree with you, but you're even a little bit more patient than I am. I get the whole patience, let this season play out, and then do what you said. Let all those contracts expire. But you have to expedite getting Bohm off of third base. Hoskins is a waste. I mean, he's a waste. And his comments told you everything you need to know about him. Rhys Hoskins is not a franchise player. He's a nice guy. He hits home runs. That's all he does. He does not offer anything else. Rhys Hoskins is the first guy you have to move because you have to get Bohm off of third base. You can't keep playing him there. So your text message right now would be right up there with Chris Corchiani. He was a great guard for NC State. Every time I see that name now, I'm going to be like, wait a second. Chris Corchiani, is he really living in the area? You can't play Bohm at third base anymore. You just can't. You can't do it to the rest of the team. To set the precedent that it's okay to make 12 errors, and some of the errors he's making are little league errors. Just can't do it. So Hoskins is the guy. You have to try to expedite that now and just start the transition of, okay, you can't bank on the universal DH. It might be here, might not. 609 403 0973. That's not a bad contract for his production. I think you can trade that. I don't know who you're talking about. I'm imagining you're talking about Harper. It's not a bad contract monetarily. It's the 10 years that you're tied to him for. If you're talking about Harper, you're right. It's not a bad annual salary. It's the 10 years. Nobody wants to pay him for 10 years at 37, 30, 35, 36, 37, 38 years old. You're paying him $26 million. Nobody wants to do that. The Phillies had to. They had no other choice. They have no homegrown talent. They can't get anybody in the ballpark. They have Bryce Harper on the team. They can't get anybody there. Who's taking that contract for 10 years? Hey, if you find a team that will take the contract, make the call. Make the call. If someone takes that contract, I'd be shocked. First thing for the Phillies to do, Mike, is hire Sam Hinkie. Well, wishful thinking for people who want to go down the process road. You can't go down the process road, bud. Sam Hinkie would want to trade Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto, and Zach Wheeler and start over. Can't do that. So that, I know what you're saying, Sam Hinkie, going down that road. I don't think you can do that with the Phillies here. I think they're beyond that. 609-403-0973. 26 blown leads. Fix the bullpen at any expense. They tried. I mean, the whole bullpen's new this year. The whole bullpen, except for Neris, is new. I mean, they tried to fix the bullpen. And here's the problem. They have no homegrown pitching talent, so they're going to have to do the same thing next year, which is what? These guys didn't work out. Now we got to try new guys we got to bring in. They're just doing the same thing because they don't have any homegrown pitching talent. So they just got to keep kind of throwing money at the Neftali Felizes, and they're hoping that just one of the guys they throw $3 million at. Here's $3 million. Come see if you can pitch for us. And they're just hoping one of those guys they hit on. You'd figure after all these years, one of those guys would be the one guy that you're like, wow, look where they found this guy. And they've done it before. By the way, Neftali Feliz just got designated for assignment. That's a shame. It was a nice story. Feliz hadn't pitched in the big leagues since 2017. He had no business being up. Can you imagine your manager calls on Neftali Feliz? But just to give you some indication, Neftali Feliz had an ERA under 2 at AAA, was their closer. It shows you the difference between pitching at that level and pitching at this level. So anybody pitching, oh, look, bring up the AAA guys. They're pitching well down there. That doesn't matter. Feliz was the best guy they had in AAA. They brought him up here and he got his brains beat in. But can you imagine? You're Joe Girardi and your general manager says, hey, I got you a guy. Oh, yeah? Yeah, Neftali Feliz. What year is this? Right? It's like Lou Brown. Hey, you want to manage the Indians? Who is this? Right? Hold on a second. I got a guy on the other line on a great set of white walls on his tires. I mean, that's literally like Neftali Feliz. Here you go, Girardi. Good luck with that. Gave up 4 runs in 1 inning. Thanks for playing. 26 blown leads. Fix the bullpen at any expense. They kept trying. They're trying, dude. They have tried and tried and tried. They brought in Coonrod. They brought in Bradley. They brought in Hale. They brought in Alvarado. They brought in Kinsler. Kinsler was a closer last year for a team that went to the playoffs, for God's sakes. What are you going to do? All right, more text messages are coming in. 609-403-0973. Mike, the Nola contract is team friendly. You could get a lot for Nola. I agree. Nola is a guy that you could try to trade. 100% there. I don't have a problem with that. Nola to me is a number 2, falling down to a number 3 the way he's throwing this year. So you might be losing value for him, but I think you can get enough for him. Maton, Luke Williams, Torreyes. What do you mean who's going to play second base? I mean long term. I get you could play Maton and those guys at second base for the rest of this year, but are you going to play those guys long term at second base? Like, is that your long? My point is, you don't have a long term answer at second base. Yes, you could play some journeymen there for the rest of this year. 609-403-0973. Gene Segura is having an awesome year. Look at the A's middle infield production. Puck has been hurt. He's not a top prospect anymore. Trevor Rosenthal went down. The A's might go for that. If anyone can Moniak, I don't know what that means. But, yeah, Segura's having a great year. They could trade Segura. Don't expect anything back in return. I agree with you 100%. You can trade Gene Segura. I wouldn't anticipate getting any return that you are going to be getting. Remember when the Phillies had they have plenty of instances. Plenty of instances the Phillies have where they have traded veteran players who are having good years. Trying to think back to some of the trades they have made where the Phillies had a good player that was having a solid year and they end up trading him. Marlon Byrd was here. Remember Marlon Byrd? He played for the Phillies in 2014. Now, he was 36 years old at the time, so it's a little different. But he was hitting .264 with 25 homers. And the Phillies traded him away and essentially got nothing. He got traded by the Phillies for cash. Great year, by the way. He was having a great year. He got traded for cash. He's an older player. Segura is a good player, but at that stage, no one wants to pay Gene Segura $14 million. I'll pay the $14 million, but I'm not going to give you anything to do it. That's the problem. Like, you get to this spot where you're paying him too much money. Why are you paying Segura too much money? Because you don't have anybody in your own system, so you have to go out and pay someone to come play that position for you. Well, now he's having a good year, and you don't want him anymore because your team is not in a position to have nice things. So now you have to trade him. And in return, you are sending him to a team that's going to have to pay his lofty contract. They don't want to do that. So in response to you giving me a $14 million contract on my books, I'm not giving you anything in return for him. So you get a low-A pitcher. Here you go. If he works out for you, great. Phillies traded Jimmy Rollins, and he was 35 years old. Now, a little different, 35 years old. And in return for Jimmy Rollins, I think they got Zach Eflin, actually. They did. So that one worked out for them. They could do something like that. You know, they got a double-A pitcher, Zach Eflin, I think, at the time. That worked out for them. But a lot of times you get a guy who's a little older, making too much money, and you end up trading him. The other team doesn't want anything back in return. Mike Maton is 23 years old, far from a journeyman. I'm not saying he's a journeyman, meaning that he's been bouncing around the league. I'm saying he projects to be a utility player. If you want Nick Maton to be your everyday second baseman for the next 10 years, okay. You and I have a different of opinion. I like Nick Maton. I like him as a utility player. I'm not saying I'm going to start my rebuild with Nick Maton taking over second base for the long term. My point is Nick Maton is not the long-term answer at second base. 609 403 0973. 609 403 0973. All right. A lot of texts on this conversation. Thank you, guys. Great job so far. We'll do more of it coming up. Keith Smith on the NBA playoffs, which continue tonight. No Giannis. What's that mean for the Bucks? Are the Suns the clear favorites? We'll talk to NBA writer Keith Smith from SpotRack.com, Yahoo Sports. He will join me here on the Sports Bash. Coming up next on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, and watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. right, 20 after 3, we take a look at the NBA playoffs, which are taking shape now. The finals have a team in. The Eastern Conference gets going again tonight. No Giannis Antetokounmpo for the Bucks, so this series is really taking a wild twist and turn. You had a game 4 in which no Trae Young and the Hawks win going away. So what will game 5 look like? Keith Smith, SpotRack.com, covers the NBA. Will join us with a look at this and some other NBA news and notes. The finals have a Western Conference team in who will represent the East. Let's bring Keith in to the conversation. What's going on, Keith? How you been, pal?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I know that the Suns are in. We'll get to that in just a second. But I know it's hard to make sense of what's going on in the East. But with no Giannis potentially for the rest of this series, are we looking at an Atlanta Hawks team representing the East in the finals?
We might be. It really, kind of probably depends on if Trae Young can get back. I know they popped the Bucks pretty good without him in game 4, but that seems to be more of an outlier than a thing I think we can necessarily count on happening. So, but we'll see. This series has kind of taken some turns and had some ups and downs for both teams. So, but yeah, I mean, Atlanta right now, I'd call it at least a 50-50 shot to get there.
Let's talk about Milwaukee without Giannis. Can they get through a game or two? Can they find a way to win, or does he do so much for them that, the Hawks were able to win without Trae Young the other night. So does Giannis do so much for them that it's inconceivable to find a way for them to win?
It's not inconceivable. They can definitely do enough to win. I think, they need to really probably amp up the defense. And their big thing will need to be finding a second and third scorer, because Chris Middleton will step up, but you can't just take, all right, well, Giannis averages 30, so throw that on Chris Middleton and we're good. And it's not going to be how it plays out. So you need Drew Holiday to be consistent. I'd like to see them go back to playing Brook Lopez in the post a little bit, where he used to be almost unstoppable down there, and it's been years since that's been a big part of his game. Maybe that's still there. You could unlock that, and then we'll see where they go to for offense off the bench, because now everyone's going to have to step up and replace him. But if the Hawks don't have Trae Young, they're going to be right there with them. If the Hawks have Trae Young, they might find it hard to outscore Atlanta.
Yeah, I know Young out. We don't know his status. He is questionable, but if he comes back, they've had all sorts of problems with him early in the series. But what have they kind of done to, take away what Young was able to do in game 1?
Yeah, I think what they did was they went to a little bit different style defense. They weren't playing that severe drop coverage like they like to as much. They went to, playing him a little bit more straight up. They were fighting through screens. They switched things a little bit more often. With kind of having a set switch on the backside to avoid mismatches. And then they basically said, hey, if you want to live with taking 35-footers against Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis and Giannis on mismatches, we're going to live with those. They're great when they go in, but we don't know that you'll make a high enough percentage of them to really hurt us. And that's how they've kind of been able to make this work.
Yeah, I know that people were talking about how Lopez was a big, deficiency for the Bucks. I guess they have kind of figured out how to utilize him and keep him out there. But right now, Chris Middleton, even if Giannis plays, are the Bucks a team that can win the whole thing? Can you rely on Chris Middleton in the biggest moments to win you a title?
I think you can. I think he's shown that he can do that. The problem with Chris Middleton is when he's bad, he's really bad. But he's not necessarily super streaky. So it's not like it's one great game followed by a bad game. It tends to be more a string of pretty good games followed by one bad game. So I think what we're ultimately going to see with him is, maybe you'll see him have to string together the consistent good games while avoiding the bad game. But if the bad game comes and they don't have Giannis, they're in a lot of trouble.
Yep. I know he's one of those guys they don't play too often without, right? I mean, he plays most of their games in the regular season. They don't rest him. They don't load manage him all that much. So this is a team that, like the Sixers, they play a lot of games without Joel Embiid. If he misses a game or two, they kind of figure out ways because they do it so often. The Bucks don't play without him all that often.
No, very rare that he will miss a game. It's usually only if he has some form of injury, and then that's what it takes to sit him down. Yeah, you don't see a lot of, hey, just sit this one out. He's a guy who wants to be out there. He wants to play. Last couple seasons, they blew so many teams out that they were able to steal him in-game rest. There was a lot of games where he might only played 25 minutes, and then you were kind of rolled to a victory, so it didn't really matter with his minutes or anything like that. But yeah, as far as sitting him out for a whole game, that's pretty rare. And at this point too, it seems like it was maybe overlooked a little bit when the playoffs started because they did so well. But Dante DiVincenzo being out is a huge loss for them, especially looming large now when you need just somebody else who can put the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, I know that it'll be interesting to see how they kind of maneuver things when he's not out there tonight. Because, again, we don't see them play without him too much. Drew Holiday probably has to take on more of a scoring load, maybe even more from Middleton. They're already without DiVincenzo. So this series is 2-2, Atlanta and Milwaukee. You can hear the game tonight on 97.3 ESPN. How about the game and the lift Cam Reddish gave them the other night for Atlanta? There's another part of this series with Young out, he gave them a little lift the other night.
Yeah, he really did. He ended up, coming back just over a week or so ago was when he was made first available to play, and this was the first time he kind of, really did stuff in meaningful minutes, and that's huge because without DeAndre Hunter, they've been kind of short one wing player throughout this run, and they've made it work and figured it out, and they've played some bigger lineups at times with Capella, Collins, and Gallinari playing all together. That's a group that they got a lot of mileage with against Philadelphia. But now as you're facing a Milwaukee team that they're not necessarily small, but there's not a place to then hide Gallinari as easily if you want to play them with Capella and Collins. Certainly not going to have that against Phoenix. If you can have Reddish out there and being productive, that's huge for the Hawks.
All right, let's shift over to the West. We now know it will be the Phoenix Suns who are representing the West. I mean, kind of an improbable thing. This is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 10 years, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're in the finals. Now, obviously, a lot of injuries and things along the way, but what makes this team a team that was the second seed and that people shouldn't have been surprised that they made the finals regardless of how they got there?
Yeah, I think everybody initially looks at it and says, okay, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton, that's pretty good. But what makes them really good is their depth. And it's not that they have 12 guys where you're like, oh, boy, they're going to overwhelm you. They only play about 9 guys, but they've got great functional depth because those 9 guys all know what their role is. They all play very hard. They defend like heck out there. They are all over the place. Defensively challenging guys, pressing up on ball handlers. It's hard to get good looks against this team, and that's because everybody is bought in. And I think, the way Monty Williams has put together this defensive group that makes it really hard, that allows them to work around some of their occasional offensive deficiencies. But even then, they've done a really good job scheming around that stuff too, because Chris Paul continues to dribble his way into those elbow pull-up jump shots, and Devin Booker can get just about whatever look he wants. And then if for some reason you're able to take those guys away, they're very comfortable dumping it into DeAndre Ayton and playing through him.
Yeah, this seems like a team that might be here this is interesting because Chris Paul kind of is the piece that they added that kind of put them over because they had Booker, they had Ayton, they had Bridges, they had a lot of this roster. It was Paul that really was the finishing perfect piece for them. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him moving forward. But what has Paul given this team that they needed to kind of go from a 34 win team last year to the finals?
Yeah, what he did was he allowed them to build on the momentum that they put together in the bubble last year because they were one of the teams in the bubble. They went 8-0 and almost, made a playoffs when we were all like, why is this team even going? This doesn't even make sense. They almost stole a playoff spot. So what Chris Paul did was he came in and from day one, he's been on Booker and Ayton to, hey, we got to do this. We got to do that. We got to do this better. We got to do that better. And it's one of those things I said, especially with DeAndre Ayton, I tweeted this at the time the trade was made, that Chris Paul is going to be on him every single day, screaming at him, and this is going to be the best thing that ever happens for DeAndre Ayton. And, that's really panned out, and that's been huge, having that kind of veteran leader in there who is pushing those guys every day. And then when you add guys to it like Jay Crowder, a couple of the guards that they added, each one more, and Langston Galloway, they don't play a lot, those two, but those two guys have been around for a long time. That's a group that really together is, they get it, and that's allowed them to kind of, those vets, keep them together when they've gone through the rough patch. Versus in years past, Phoenix may get off to a nice start or might play well. They hit a rough patch and it all kind of fell apart on them. Not this year.
I guess it's too early to kind of think about what happens with Chris Paul, but he is going to be available on the market, correct?
Yeah, he's got a player option. It seems somewhat likely that he'll decline that and then try to sign as big of a contract as he can. He's one of those guys who's working up against some of the upper end of the age restriction rules on how long of a contract that they can sign. But, there's no one's going to necessarily give him 4 or 5 years at this point anyway. So that shouldn't really come into play. There was some thought of, could another team steal him away and get him there? But I think when you look at it for Chris Paul, one, he's not going to leave a team that made the finals. And if they win, I find even less likely that he leaves. And also, he's not going back to the Clippers. He's not going to go to the Lakers because they don't have any reasonable way to acquire him. Phoenix is as close as he can get to where he's made his home. He's a guy who his family is very, very important to him. So I think you're going to see him stick right there in Phoenix. Even if he opts out, I think he'll be opting out to sign a deal that adds a couple extra years for him there in Phoenix.
Should be very interesting to see what kind of deal they end up with him, because he's making some pretty good money on the current deal here at 36 years old. Chris Paul, he was always the guy, Keith, that came up short. He couldn't get the Clippers there. They came up short when he was in Houston. Now, some of that was because of injury. He always seemed to have something. Then he had the COVID situation. So what does this do for the legacy of Chris Paul, the player?
Yeah, he was probably at the top of the list for best player to never make a finals. He was definitely at the top of the list of best player to never make a conference finals, which he raced at this year. Now he's erased the finals. I don't know that we can put him at the top of the list of best to never win a championship, because that list is pretty long with some pretty great players, but he'll be in that mix. Now he has a chance to knock himself off that list too. And at the end of the day, when we discuss greatness, one of the places we always go is, how many rings did they win? Did they win a ring? And if a guy didn't win a ring, it kind of leads the resume almost every single time. That's why I never criticize, blame a player when they do what they can, put themselves in position to win a ring. Because as long as we're going to analyze it as that being, a major thing and being super important, then we should, get kind of hats off to the players when they go and try to make sure that they get one.
Should be fascinating. Now, I say fascinating because right now I would imagine, do you think the Suns are a heavy favorite to win these finals, regardless of the health and who represents the East?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say they're the favorite. I don't know that I'd make them a heavy favorite if Giannis gets back, if Milwaukee gets there. Then I think that is a pretty even matchup, and those two teams, would be, I bet, fairly even money. But if it's looking like Giannis can't get back, or, if the Hawks get there and, if the Hawks get there and Trae Young is limited in any way, then I think I would lean the Suns. I would certainly not. It would have to be a pretty heavy line favoring Phoenix for me to have to back away from putting any money down on them, because I do think that they probably are going to get this done.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too. And people forget, like, DeAndre Ayton was the number 1 pick in the draft. Devin Booker was 13. That's the guy though that they kind of lucked in. I don't want to say lucked into. They drafted him, but did people pass on him? Did he get drafted where he was supposed to? Like, he's the guy for them, and he's the difference maker for this franchise.
Yeah, a little bit of both. People did, pass on him at the time, and he went maybe a little later. There was some talk, that he would be a top 10 pick. There was a question about Devin Booker out there was, will he ever shoot? or do more than just shoot, rather. That was kind of the question is, will he ever be more than a shooter, or will it just be that's what he is? And he's proven now, hey, I can get the ball. And now it's interesting to see when you put him with a good defensive team, he can actually get some stuff done defensively too. He's not, a complete zero on that end like he was previously thought to be.
Yeah, because it's funny. The Sixers have a bunch of ties. Monty Williams was here. Mikal Bridges was drafted here. And the Sixers took Okafor. I said, well, context is kind of king here. Like, you took Okafor third. No one really said Booker should have been the third pick in that draft, right?
No, definitely not that high. And there was a thought at the time that Jahlil Okafor, we hadn't moved fully into this small ball era, and there was a thought at that time that he might be, an absolutely dominant scoring big. So I think that anybody who's making that argument, they're doing some pretty severe revisionist history.
Yeah. Now you go back to the Bridges trade. Now that one's interesting. Like, looking back at that, you traded Bridges, you got Zaire Smith, but you also got that first-round pick that was Miami's. You ended up trading that pick to get Tobias Harris. So hindsight 2020, do you make that trade again if you're Philadelphia? Do you keep Bridges, or is getting that pick and then trading it to get Harris, are you in a better spot?
No, I would have kept Bridges at the time, and then they would have been able to make the Harris trade with some other pick. Is my guess. So they would have been able to use one of their own picks or something else if that was still a trade they wanted to make. Because there was a question at the time of, all right, we trade the Miami pick. They could be a better team than us, and we'll see where that goes. You might have been giving up the at what was thought at the time to be a worse pick. But yeah, the Mikal Bridges trade didn't make a ton of sense at the time, because it seemed like he was going to perfectly fit what Philadelphia needed. And not that I certainly didn't expect him to be quite as good as he is right now, but I did expect him to grow into being a very good player and eventually a pretty good starter. He's just gotten there quicker, and I think most people had a similar view of him. So that one's been a head scratcher from almost the moment it was announced.
All right, I want to get your opinion also on a couple of things. Keith Smith's with us, talking a little NBA. What's next for the Clippers, by the way? How interesting is their offseason?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Now, it's expected Kawhi Leonard will opt out with a deal to re-sign with the Clippers and stay right there. But anybody who says they know what Kawhi Leonard's doing for certain hasn't really been paying attention for the last, let's call it a half decade or so. Because he's just, he doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't really give, a lot of interviews. He doesn't give a lot of tips on what he's going to do. But beyond that, they've got to find a way to maybe refresh a few positions on that team, and they're stuck a little, because if Kawhi resigns, they're going to be so far over the cap and well into the tax. That for Steve Ballmer, that doesn't really matter. He doesn't really care about that. It just or limits your roster building opportunities. And Reggie Jackson, I have an article up over at Spot Track right now about minimum players who played themselves off minimum contracts this year. Reggie Jackson's right at the top of that list, because he's going to get paid, and whether the Clippers, because of their limitations on how much they can pay him, are able to be the team to do that or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, Keith Smith with us here, spottrack.com. You can check out all his stuff, a lot of stuff on this NBA offseason, as well as what's going on here. A week has passed, or I guess 2 weeks now, since the Sixers have been eliminated, and there's probably been 25 Ben Simmons trades. Are any at this point in your mind realistic?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like all the stuff that gets thrown out there, it's either Philadelphia is giving up stuff to get off Ben Simmons, which I get it, but it's not that bad. We're not there yet where they need to be giving up first round picks and other things to get off of his contract. Or on the flip side, other teams are, they're stealing him for next to nothing. Or I've even seen some where it's, Philadelphia's getting back. I've seen people saying, yeah, Simmons for Lillard is enough straight up. That's also unrealistic. And that's going to be part of the problem is finding, real value for him that actually makes sense. Because what happens with a guy like him is he's carrying a big number with this glaring deficiency that really stands out in the playoffs. But if you're the right team, you ought to be able to figure out a way to work around that if you have the right personnel. So That's the tricky part, with Simmons. So, Philly should get some value out of him. But, we're going to see, how this all comes together, here over, let's call it the next 3-4 weeks.
All right. So a couple of the more realistic ones, I guess. I mean, would you do a D'Angelo Russell for Ben Simmons? Does that make you better or different?
I think I would, but Minnesota will not do that. D'Angelo Russell is one of Karl Anthony Towns' best friends in the world, and he's openly talked about how much it means to have him there, how much it's meant to have him there with all the personal struggles that Karl Anthony Towns and his family have gone through this past year. So everybody throwing that out there is completely disregarding that. We're not going to see that happen in Minnesota. I wouldn't take Minnesota off the table as a trading partner, though, because they've got other guys that they could go to get to the matching salary while also delivering value. And a big part of that is because they are actually delivering this pick to the Warriors. So that kind of unencumbers them beyond this year to trade picks and the like to make moves happen.
What about C.J. McCollum? Does that do anything for you?
Yeah, that one is a little more interesting. That's going to depend on Neil O'Shea and Chauncey Billups deciding, all right, let's go away from the Lillard-McCollum duo. Let's really kind of go a different direction here. And if they want to do that, that one can make some sense, especially if you move around a couple other pieces, because Portland also has Norman Powell, who they traded for, that they can re-sign. And my guess would be what they would do is you would trade for Simmons with the idea of, all right, you're going to be playing at the 4 for us. You're going to be a role man. You're going to be a secondary or tertiary playmaker for us. You're going to be somebody who is hanging out around the basket area. And I think they've got the personnel that they could kind of make it work. It's also enough out of the limelight that I don't think you would be stuck in a position where necessarily everybody's examining everything that Simmons does on a daily basis. So I do think there could be some that works there. And for Philly side, McCollum comes in, becomes one of your lead guards right out of the gate, and you're off to a pretty good start.
All right. The NBA Finals, by the way, could be set. It won't be after tonight. We're only at Game 5. It's 2-2 in that one. So it's going to be a couple more days to find out who the Suns will play. But it could start as early as, I think, Tuesday night next week. The Phoenix Suns are in. Who will they play? Well, find out tonight when the Hawks take on the Bucks here on 97.3 ESPN. Keith Smith at Keith Smith NBA, and he, like all guests here on the Sports Bash. Appreciate it as always, Keith. Have a good one, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to Keith in the NBA Finals next week. We will have a Finals matchup set when he is back here on the Sports Bash. Adam Kaplan talks a little NFL with us in 18 minutes. By the way, Dario Saric is also on the Phoenix Suns team, so they have a bunch of former Sixers on that team. Now, Dario, if you remember, who was a popular guy here. Dario's kind of a role player for that team, right? The homie. He has had a up and down, I guess you could say, averages about 10 minutes a game. Scores about 5 points a game. Doesn't have a big role for that team, Dario. But Mikal Bridges has turned into a pretty decent player. Now, in these playoffs, he scored about 10 points a game. And we always look at, the three-point shot. He doesn't shoot the three all that well in these playoffs. He's about 35%. But he's turned into a really good defensive player, although I thought he struggled in this series defensively. All right, I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. We've got a lot of text messages still to get to when we come back here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. right, 347. Thanks to Keith. Of course, always great. Todd Ranks here. What's going on, man? As we have the rank report, the rank rant, I guess we could say on this one. The Phoenix Suns, who only tanked for 10 years, they have finally not only made it to the playoffs, they're going to the NBA Finals. 10 years they had not made the playoffs, and now they're in, man. They knocked out your Clippers.
Well, I don't have too much of a rant, Mike. I'll be honest with you. I'm happy for Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul with the Clippers couldn't do it. You know, he had a chance with Doc, and they couldn't make it happen. I'm really happy for him, and really, they're the better team this year. Obviously, because Kawhi Leonard's not on the floor right now. I think the Clippers, that's a different series if Kawhi Leonard's on that floor. I don't think there's any question.
Well, that's this whole year. I mean, look what's going on. I mean, you got no Trae Young the other night. You got Giannis is going to be out tonight. I mean, you might not get Trae Young again. I mean, this thing has turned into a mess.
Yeah, it really. I mean, it's been a bit of a you know what. And look, as I look at it, you try to take some of the good stories from it, Mike. I mean, PG to me, this was a coming out party, which the people who know how good he is and how great he is don't need it. But I think for his own psyche, kind of needed it without saying so. He doesn't admit to it, but I think he needed this. What was it, 20 playoff games in a row, over 20 points, something like that. I mean, it was really a remarkable run by him. I'm happy for him, even though they didn't make it to the finals. They still made steps, right? They made it to the Western Conference Finals without Kawhi. And I think that actually opens up the door, Mike, because I thought there was a lot of talk about Kawhi maybe heading off. If they didn't really make a run this year and what's going on, do him and PG really work together? I think this allows for more of a possibility that Kawhi and PG both stay in LA with the Clippers.
Yeah, I think he'll stay there. But, people forget Paul George took those Clippers, those Pacers teams right to the finals. I mean, he was nose to nose with those Heat teams for a couple of years there. And I think the disappointing was when he went to LA with Kawhi, people were like, how are you going to beat this team? The disappointment has been that Paul George was not the same guy that he was with the Pacers, who brought a team by himself to the conference finals. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's what happened last year, Mike, right? So the last year when everybody had the Clippers as the team, right? They were going to make it to the finals. They got Kawhi, they got PG. PG came up small last year. This year, he produces to what people expect and hope for, but he doesn't have Kawhi with him. And there's the problem. So maybe in year 3 now, next year, you'll get both of them, God willing, healthy, and that would be your shot. Because really, a lot of these key players, Mike, when you looked at that game last night, I mean, Morris played a huge role in this team this year, and more importantly, in the playoffs. I think Jackson is a huge piece, but the problem is, who can you pay, right? Because as these guys play better, now what is their stock?
Jackson's out of there.
Yeah, I think Jackson's gone, right? Which again, he was just there's a coming out party for him.
Absolutely.
So
they're still using Nick Batum, though. Who knew he was still in the league?
And you know what's funny about that, Mike? I love Nick Batum. Like, when he wasn't on the Clippers, I used to love watching him play. He's that piece, right? That veteran guy, and he filled a role on this team, and he really played well. The Suns, look, I think the Suns have to be the favorite. I was going to make them the favorite, even if Giannis was healthy, fully healthy. It's good. Nothing structurally is wrong with his knee, Mike, but he's still. You think you can? I mean, I watched that. I think it's going to be like a Joel Embiid situation where, okay, nothing's wrong with him, but he's not going to play for 2 or 3 weeks, I would imagine. So I don't think you see Giannis in the rest of this series at all. Much like Joel hurt his knee, he didn't have any structural damage, but he still had enough damage he couldn't come right back and play. But they told us that there was a torn meniscus in that knee. They haven't said that about Giannis, right?
Right.
So the question is, how bad is there swelling? I mean, it looked awful. But these guys, I mean, how they recover, can he be back for the finals if they make it? But Mike, now that's the question. I mean, this Eastern Conference has been, it's laughable, but it's also been entertaining, Mike, in some ways, right?
Yeah, but it's like one of those things. It's like a couple of years from now, you're going to look back and, everybody always talks about like, oh, like the Sixers tanked to get a superstar. These teams are all losing purposely to get better draft picks because they can't get their own superstars. They have to draft them. And people will say, well, that Pistons team is the only team that didn't have a superstar. This team that wins the title this year will become the new Pistons, where you're like, well, that team didn't need a superstar to get, you know what I mean? Like, this will be the outlier teams of all the teams that won recent championships.
Well, but if Milwaukee wins and Giannis is playing in the finals,
that's a different story.
That's what I mean. So if we're looking at the Suns, yeah, CP3, we all can say is a leader, a general, but he's not a guy like a LeBron or a Durant that's going to get you there. He's got Devin Booker becoming a star. Yep. Devin Booker is a star.
This playoffs has been about new stars. Like LeBron's getting older, and obviously, you know, he's at the end of the road. So, you know, when Jordan left, there was a couple years, and then like the Kobe generation, and then when Kobe left, LeBron kind of stepped right in. When LeBron leaves, who's going to be that next? This group of guys is now jumping into that spot. It's Booker, it's Donovan Mitchell, it's Trae Young. It's this group of guys. Like, so who's that guy going to be? That's what this playoff has kind of become. Now, are the Suns going to be constant NBA championship contenders? It's going to be hard when Chris Paul's 36 years old to keep doing this, and to replace him is going to be tough.
Well, Devin Booker gets better, right? I mean, he's getting better. He's going to be a star in this league. Ayton, I think, is going to be the key piece for the Suns. Ayton is flourishing because of Chris Paul. Devin Booker will still get him the ball, but there's something different about Chris Paul with Ayton, and I think the growth of Ayton. And that's what we're going to see the difference of. I think if Chris Paul, what is he with the Suns? Another year, another 2 years? When he's done, then you're going to see, I think, unfortunately, you may see a drop-off. But Ayton's really played above any expectation that people had of him. And again, this was a coming-out party for him. I love the Suns' mentality. I think, you know, when we talk about coaches, Mike, and we do a lot, whether they matter or not, I think Monty Williams has mattered, right? I think on some level you got to give him credit that whatever mentality and whatever he brought into this team.
That's where I say I'm like 80-20.
Yeah.
I don't say they have no impact, but, you know, it's like you guys make my point for me. You hate Lou. Lou's won a title. He took a team to the finals of the Western Conference without his best player. I mean, what more did the guy have to do to say, hey, to me, that shows he don't have a big impact.
Well, it may be more personal from my perspective. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, everybody thinks this guy's a genius. I just simply
every guy we've had on this show that we talk about, any NBA guy that we asked about Lou, they rave how great the adjustments he's made and how great his substitutions have been, and that he came out in a zone the other night, and that set the tone of that game. People love him.
I know. And again, I will admit on the air, personal preference, not my guy.
Real quick, we only got like 30 seconds. Yeah. So yesterday we asked the listeners and got a ton of response here. And I know this is right up your alley. 5 movies you are confident you've seen 10 times.
Shawshank Redemption.
Bingo.
Field of Dreams.
All right.
Sleepless in Seattle.
There you go.
I'm going to bring him out there. Hold on. Wait for it. Why am I losing it right now? Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
My list as well.
Yeah. And one more. Oh, I know I'm missing one that's just right in my face that I see on TBS or TNT every week.
TNT all the time.
Give it to me. Go ahead, Mike. I know I'm missing. I can't think of it right now.
Back to the Future. Jaws.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many others. It's true. Let me tell you, I've been seeing Mission Impossible.
What's Couples Retreat?
Oh, Couples Retreat. Come on. Old School. There it is. Old School. I've seen that about 40 times.
Couples Retreat is great.
Hey, but that's an acquired taste. I do have to say with Couples Retreat, if you've watched it once, you got to watch it 4, 5, 10 times.
All right, I'm going to read off those texts later on because I got 500 of them yesterday I never got to. All right, man, I'll see you.
All right, buddy. Have a good weekend.
presents the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan.
I have real confidence that our football operations can once again create a dominant football team.
Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios. It's Football at 4.
Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which is dropping this morning at 6 a.m. They are doing a look at the NFC East with Greg Cosell. Check that out on the Inside the Birds platform, wherever you listen to your podcast. Jeff Mosher, Adam Kaplan, they do the Inside the Birds podcast, and they are with me Adam is with me right now. As we like to say, he is the third member of the NWO. Right here on a Football at 4. Adam, what is going on, my friend? How you been? Adam, can you hear me? Adam, can you hear me? Adam is not hearing me. Something is on his side there. So we will try to get him back in and out of the thing here and see if we can. Oh, do we have you, Adam? Nope, he is drinking coffee, it seems like. And he cannot hear me. Maybe we can try to get him out of this stream and put him back into the stream. He can't hear me. Josh, maybe you can give him a call and try to work with him on that. All right, Adam Kaplan is here. We will do some Football at 4. Don't forget, by the way, we will be doing a special State of the Team Philadelphia Eagles edition on Monday's show. Jeff Mosher, we will do a State of the Eagles Football at 4 in the 4 o'clock hour. Bob Wankel will be doing the Phillies with us on Monday, and Paul Hudrick will be on the Sixers in the 3 o'clock hour, and Jeff Mosher in the 4 o'clock hour. A lot of football to get to today with Adam Kaplan. We will get with him here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3. He is talking to Josh off the air, trying to get that all set up on the video stream. By the way, couple text messages I will get to. The state of Philly sports is terrible, Mike. It's unbelievable how many underachieving players each team has. The players should be embarrassed. It seems many don't care. Eagles are undefeated. I don't know what that means. But I don't know. Maybe the fans are just too tough on this team. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that. But I think we got Adam back. There he is. Adam Kaplan. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, Michael. Good to see you. Yes.
There he is. So I was just telling the people, you guys on Inside the Birds are doing the NFC East with Greg Cosell. They've been very interesting and very educational listening. Of course, Greg does a great job, but you're finding a little bit more. Dallas, you did Monday. Washington dropped today. Giants on Monday coming up, and then you guys will be doing a full Eagles on Thursday. So, this NFC East, very interesting. But I guess one question is, when you look at the Eagles roster against the rest of this division, would you say this is the worst 53-man roster of the 4 teams?
Right, they're 90 now, but yeah, potentially 53, yes. In fact, that's our big, it's funny you bring this up. This is a big reason why we're doing it. We want to educate the fans, and as well as ourselves. We all want to understand, what does the Eagles roster look versus the other 3 teams in the division? We feel, when we look at the rest of the league, and we can certainly get into this, that they have a roster that doesn't compare favorably to other teams. But within that, who are they? What can they be? Could this team shock us and have a winning record at 9-8, something like that? Remember, we go to the 17-game season this year for the first time ever. We just want to kind of figure out the reason why we're doing this series. And as you said, we dropped 2 teams, and the last 2 will be next week, including the Eagles, which I'm sure will be a long show. But we just want to get a general feel of what this team could be. And yeah, when you stack it against the Eagles roster against the other 3 teams, what they look like now is a 90-man roster. And once they get down to the 53-man roster on August 31st, yeah, they're clearly the 4th team. I don't think there's any question about it, because it's the question marks on both sides of the football. And you and I have talked about this. I know you and Jeff Mosher have talked about this on your segments on Football at 4 here. When is the last time we had so many questions with a football team? Probably 2016 under Doug Peterson, ironically, his first year.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm thinking back to that first year when Chip left and then it went over to Doug. You were answering a lot of questions. You had similar questions after they went 7-9 into the next year, and that turned out to be pretty good. But a lot of that was based on the fact that their offensive line was very strong that year. They made some interesting sound free agent moves. And I guess when you look at this roster in this division, what's the ceiling for you, Adam?
9-8. I think this is what has to happen. Let's say Hurts. We just don't know enough about him. The Eagles don't as well. He started 4 games. From what I understand, he's had a pretty good offseason, but I always break them into segments. The offseason is AA baseball. Preseason and training camp is AAA baseball. The major leagues is the regular season. That's when you know if you hit the fastball, so to speak, with Jalen Hurts. Can he handle all that's going to come to him now in his first full season as a starting quarterback? So, we don't know that yet. When you look at sort of the rest of the situation with the Eagles, the upside is the receiver group. They're very talented. I mean, you've got 2 first-round picks, Jalen Reagor, and Devontae Smith, and Travis Fulgham, who's very gifted. I know that he faded after that incredible 4-game production, which led the National Football League in terms of receiving yards. Greg Ward is a decent slot receiver, very dependable. That's pretty much it for the wide receiver position. You've got Ertz is still on the team for now. Goddard looks like he's got a chance to be a really good player. Sanders is really good. There's talent here. They're what I love about the running back group, it's the deepest they've had in years since really 2017. So the upside, there's a lot of upside with this offense, but there's a lot of mystery because they're playing together for the first time. You and I have talked about this offensive line. I don't know how many times now. The offensive line as a group, 4 of them make up a top 5 group. The other one, the left tackle, we just don't know because neither of them started for a full season. And yes, there's a competition in training camp. So to summarize the offense, Mike, there's a ton of upside. I'm kind of looking forward to going to the training camp to see how good this offense could be under this new coaching staff. Defensively, they're so bad at corner on the outside opposite Slay. Linebacker group might be better than last year, but they're going to be a 2 linebacker team anyway. They're going to be a 4-2-5 team. The D-line is the strength of the defense, I would say. They have some depth, but safeties, we didn't mention safety. The safety is a problem. You got McLeod come back yet from another serious injury. We don't know yet about Kayvon Wallace. Yeah, he barely played last season. I know they like him, but he was a 4th-round pick, so we'll have to see. Anthony Harris knows the defense. Okay, so, I've spoken rather optimistically, but that's what you asked. What would be the upside be?
Yeah.
The reality of it all is it's a 6 or 7 win team because there's just way too many questions, but with some significant upside on offense.
Yeah, I like that significant upside, and you mentioned Fulgham. I'm kind of interested in if I don't know that you've talked to people in there. What do they hope for Fulgham? Like you mentioned, that 4-game span, that was unbelievable. Like you were like they found something in this lousy season, and then he just went away. He vanished from the offense. To which one coach said, "Look, you don't put up that over a 4-game span, and then you just think." So, what do they hope he is?
Well, a couple things here. They didn't draft a big receiver. That was something that I thought they might do. And Smith obviously is 6 feet, but he's 170-ish. So they didn't draft a big physical receiver. So they're expecting him to be a factor. And they didn't sign a veteran. The Eagles are only one of 2 NFL teams to not have a vested veteran on the roster, which is, again, a surprise. We're only on July 1st. I always have to tell myself that because teams will make fun of me when I go, man, you guys are weak at this position. They'll always say, hey, this isn't September 1st. Relax. We got 2 months. Now, in the Eagles' case, they've got 2 months to the season start. So I wouldn't rule out a potential of signing a veteran receiver for right now. They're going with what they have. Fulgham is very gifted. He's got great size. He's 6'2.5". He's a decent route runner. Good hands. Not great hands, but pretty good hands. He's very gifted. It's really remarkable, but let's not forget, there's a reason why, Mike. The Lions cut him twice. The Packers cut him once, and from what I'm told, the Lions coaching staff did not want him on the roster. That's why he was cut a second time. So that there's some maturity issues here. He's got to grow up a little bit. You can't just show up and practice well and play well 75% of the time. It's kind of my read on this information that Moshe and I have had, 8 months or something.
Yeah.
But I could tell you, I was at his first training camp practice last summer. I was blown away. I didn't know anything about the guy. I didn't know his background. I knew he was a little bit of an older player for a young player, for a 3rd-year player. And he is super gifted. And everything I've heard has been good about him. And, oh, by the way, we'd reported a couple months ago he had ankle surgery. So, But I'm told it's fine. He's doing fine. So I would say the expectations are he's going to play a lot. He's going to be one of the top 3 receivers this season.
Yeah, and, just quickly to go back, Was it Doug Peterson kind of indicated that his practice habits were not great? Is that why he kind of fell out of playing?
I don't know exactly what. I think it's his whole approach. It was after Alshon Jeffrey came back. Remember when Jeffrey came back?
Yeah.
I'm sure we talked about it on the show with you. It was bizarre to me how his role dropped. Now, I know by contract that they had to play. I would have done it. I would not have done what the Eagles did. I thought that was a major mistake, whether it came from the front office, was Peterson's decision, whatever the case may be with Alshon Jeffrey. That was a mistake to play him over Fulgham. That was a terrible mistake. Now, one could argue that Fulgham didn't handle the situation well. That may play into his practice habits, maybe, and it is true for what we understand that his practice performance needed to be better than it was. And if you don't practice well and you're not a starter or a veteran, you don't all of a sudden get your playing time back, and that was maybe part of it. But I still think it was a mistake. Fulgham is so gifted. I give the Eagles credit for the waiver claim from the Packers. That was a pretty good one. I don't know whose idea it was, but I'm assuming it's from their pro staff. That's a pretty good job of evaluation. But again, there's a reason why he's been cut 3 times.
It's just wild to think, Adam, right? That here's this guy who was statistically the best receiver in football over this 4-week span, and you just deemed we don't need you on our offense anymore. Like they couldn't find another role for him. They just basically got rid of him.
That was bad.
Right. That's the bizarre part of the whole thing, right?
Yeah, we never, Jeff and I tapped our sources on this one. I know the Eagles were aware of some of the issues that he had in Detroit. They did a good job of homework. But I'll tell you what, and you mentioned over those 4 weeks, that Pittsburgh game, which shocked me. Wentz actually played fairly well in that game. Not great, but it was one of his better games last season. Fulgham put on an absolute show. The Steelers are one of the best defenses in the NFL. They couldn't stop him. That showed me how gifted he is. And Aaron Moorhead, their receivers coach, who's back in the second year here, this is his project. Sure, developing Rager and Smith is also part of it. But if he could get Travis Fulgham to give him 75% of the production that they got over those 4 games, the Eagles are on something pretty big here with Travis Fulgham. We'll see.
By the way, Travis Fulgham did lead the team with 539 yards last year and 14 yards per catch. So
how many yards? Okay, here's my follow-up to what you just said. How many of it came in those 4 games? How much of it?
Well, he had 152 against Pittsburgh, 75 against Baltimore, 73 against New York, and 78 against Dallas. So, and 57 against San Francisco. So, in that 5-game stretch, my gosh! And then after that, I don't think if you added them all up combined, that he got the Pittsburgh game.
Right. So you pretty much got it over 4 weeks. But you just see as a sample. You can't just do that well and not be talented, and that's the point.
Right. Well, he had 34 targets in a 3-week span. Over the final 7 weeks of the year, 8 weeks of the year, he didn't have that combined. So they just completely removed him from the offense. So that'll be something. I know you said about watching training camp.
Yeah.
How are they going to use him? Is it going to be Smith, Rieger, Fulgham? Is JJ going to get a shot at all, or do they just give up on him? Is Greg Ward in the mix? We know these are going to be big time things that you guys are going to be keeping an eye on when they go to camp in less than 3 weeks here.
Yeah, well, they report the 27th, so yeah, it's just under 4 weeks. But when it comes to this receiver group, the great thing about this group is they're very young. Rager has positional versatility, slot outside. Smith, slot outside. Ward is only a slot. Fulgham, Greg Cosell told us this last year when he looked at their tape. He said that the Eagles' former staff did a good job of moving him. They actually moved him. He played some slot. He played clearly outside because he's big and he could run. So that's a good thing with this group. Then we didn't mention Hightower and Watkins. I suspect one of them will not make the team. I don't see them keeping more than 5 receivers. And you mentioned J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. He has to earn his spot on the roster. Nothing's going to be given to him. The Eagles kind of know what he's been. No, they're not moving to tight end. I know that fans keep asking me that. There's been no plans to do that. Look at how many former receivers or guys they've had at tight end moving from another position to tight end. Keem Butler, former receiver playing tight end. Tyree Jackson, former quarterback playing tight end. You got 2 guys at a minimum right now. I don't see them doing 3.
Right. And they don't want to bring Jordan Matthews in to play tight end?
Yeah, how about that story? That was funny.
Adam Kaplan, Football at 4. Don't forget, 2 Inside the Birds NFC East previews have already dropped. If you want to hear more about Dallas, more about Washington, I'm interested to see what Greg thought about those 2 teams. Because to me, Dallas is far and away the best team with Prescott back.
Yeah, I'll give you a Cliff Notes version. I'll give you 10 seconds of that, which is about 35 minutes, but it's on what you just asked or brought up. What he talked about is how the Eagles are going to struggle against their 3 receiver group. They'll be a heavy 11 personnel team with Amari Cooper, Gallup, and CeeDee Lamb. If we know the Eagles are going to add a cornerback at some point, whether it's in a week from now, whether it's 6 weeks from now, or by the start of the season, they're going to add at least 1 corner. They really need 2 more outside corners, but they'll add at least 1. They cannot line up today. If they had to play a game, and I know they don't, but if they did, they would get absolutely slaughtered by this Dallas offense, this pass game. And by the way, Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins are back at tackle. Their offense is going to be top 3 of the Cowboys. Look out, Eagles. Anytime they play the Cowboys, it'll probably be a high-scoring game because I just have a hard time believing the Eagles are going to get some veteran by the start of the season that's going to be a quality starter. We'll see. Whether it's Stephen Else or someone else, it's not going to be. There are not a lot of guys on the street that could do that.
Adam, the Eagles took the Wentz banner down today.
Yeah.
Down. So, who is there a guy who's the face that goes up in his place?
This is what I would do. Okay, this is what I would do because they have 2 players who have had the longest tenure of this roster. Jason Kelsey, 2011, who's an absolute superstar. What a great job he did in Seattle City yesterday for Eagles Autism Drive. Great job by Jason. And Brandon Graham, one of the all-time great Eagles. Both are great guys, as you know. These guys, anything they do with posters or banners, these 2 guys need to be on it. One representing offense, one representing defense. The 2 longest tenured Eagles of this roster, I absolutely would do that. I don't even think about it. It's such a layup for me. 2 of the all-time great guys, and the cool thing about Kelsey is he's a 6th-round pick who will not only go in the Eagles Hall of Fame, and I'm not saying look, if he comes back next year, we reported a couple months ago they'd have to redo his contract, but if he comes back for another 2 or 3 years, and Graham plays 2 or 3 more years, not only both will go in the Eagles Hall of Fame, you got to start talking about Kelsey, a potential Hall of Famer. That's how good of a football player he is.
Hey, so who's up there currently? Do you know?
I don't know. I haven't even looked. Fans would know that. I would have no idea.
I was going to say, because you could put Brandon Graham's strip sack up there like that.
Yes, that's a great picture. Yes, right? Yes, that's it. And Merrill Reese's call on that. Yeah, I just there's some great history with this team, and obviously Miracle in the Meadowlands 1 and 2, and obviously the Super Bowl win. But Jason Kelsey is a special football player, and so is Graham, 2 of the all-time great Eagles and great guys, and they should be celebrated.
Adam Kaplan, the new Inside the Bird NFC East champions, with Greg Cosell and Jeff Mosher, is up right now wherever you listen to podcasts, and of course it's Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash. All right, Adam, we're getting close. We're getting close to camp.
Looking forward to it, Mike. Thank you.
All right, there he goes. Adam Kaplan here on Football at 4 is brought to you by Prop Swap, where America buys and sells sports bets. Go to PropSwap.com or download the Prop Swap app today. I am Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. So today is July 1st. Yes, halfway through the year. Already in the books. It felt like just yesterday it was New Year's Eve. We were getting ready for this return of sports. Now sports has almost got back into like the normalcy phase and routine. Crowds are back and all that good stuff. But do you remember these past events that happened on this day, July 1? Well, we'll tell you the best ones coming up next. All right, 425. Do you remember? These are events that happened on this day, July the 1st. Josh Ennings, my producer, with the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. You can check us out on the live video stream, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. These are events that happened on July 1st in sports. Josh, what's happening?
How you doing today, Mike?
I'm always good, man. I've never had a bad day.
I don't believe you.
We all know July 1st on this day is Bobby Bonilla Day.
Beautiful day.
Got a check for $1.1 million from the New York Mets like he has every July 1st. He's 58 years old, by the way, Bobby Bonilla. He's got a check from the Mets for $1.1 million every July 1st from 2011 to today, and he will continue to get it on July 1st until 2035.
Greatest contract ever.
So what happened? The Mets and Bonilla agreed to a buyout, the remaining $5.9 million on the contract. However, instead of paying Bonilla the $5.9 million at the time, the Mets agreed to make annual payments of $1.2 million for 25 years, starting July 1st. That included a negotiated 8% interest increase. At the time, the Mets ownership was involved with a Bernie Madoff account that promised a double-digit interest rate over the course of the deal. The Mets thought they were going to make a profit if the Madoff account delivered. It did not. Bonilla last played for the Mets in 1999. He last played in the majors in 2001. But he will get $1.1 million from the Mets until 2035 when he is 72 years old. He's making more money this year than Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, and a couple other Mets. How do you feel about that?
It's incredible, Mike. I'm telling you, it's the greatest contract ever. I mean, that Bobby Bonilla and his agent, they deserve a little display in the Hall of Fame of baseball.
I've never heard anything like it.
Just to acknowledge how ridiculous this is, how wild it is.
You wonder how nobody else has done something like this since, like asked for deferred payments.
They should.
Right? Like, he's the only one. It's Bobby Bonilla Day. Like, we know it's always Bobby Bonilla Day.
I mean, literally, somebody out there should go to a team and be like, look, I understand you don't want this to go against your cap now. But if we defer the payments and spread out over the next 20 years against your cap, you're going to save a lot of money. I'm going to be making money when I'm 56 years old.
Well, he is going to be 72 when he gets his final check from the Mets.
That's incredible. I mean, just think about that. Bobby Bonilla now, he doesn't have to work a day ever again. He doesn't do anything.
It's absolutely
unbelievable. He can send his kids to school. He can get the nicest house. He can do whatever he wants, all because the Mets didn't want to pay him the money at the time.
1992, A League of Their Own was released in movie theaters. It's a sports comedy about an all-American girls professional baseball league. Are you a fan of that baseball movie?
It's all right.
I like that movie.
I mean, it's better than Field of Dreams.
Madonna,
Tom Hanks.
Rosie O'Donnell. I think she's the pitcher or the third baseman or something.
I thought Madonna was the pitcher.
Gina Davis is the catcher.
Yes, Gina Davis is the catcher.
Tom Hanks is the manager.
Yep, it's Tom Hanks.
Who's the guy who's like the GM or the scout?
That one I forget. But I vividly see Tom Hanks in my mind.
Oh yeah, Tom Hanks is definitively the manager. But the guy who's like the scout or whatever, who like created the league or something. Good movie.
It's a good movie. Solid.
I feel like there's other. Gina Davis, the catcher. Rosie O'Donnell. Madonna. Rosie O'Donnell, was she the third baseman?
I'm pulling up the IMDb right now and double check something.
1997, by the way. MLB 98 was released for Sony PlayStation. Since then, the game has been renamed MLB The Show. It is the most popular baseball video game today. Now, what's your favorite? Now, you're probably not a gamer with the video game stuff. Neither am I, but I played Baseball Stars was the game.
So for me, the original game was triple play baseball.
Yeah, I played a lot of triple play.
That was the original one.
Hardball?
Didn't really get into hardball much. I did go for a few years. I tried to get into the NBA, the MLB 2K games, and I quit baseball video games for quit any other sports game because I felt the games got so complicated.
Baseball Stars will forever be the greatest baseball game ever. When we were kids, we used to be up 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning playing that game, creating teams. It was the first game where you can really create players, sign free agents, and do all that stuff, like go through a season. You know, they had the lovely ladies. They had the that was one of the teams. What are some of the other teams in that game? Anybody remember some of the teams that were in Baseball Stars? They had like the one team that had like Cy Young, but his name wasn't Cy Young. But like they had like all the great players on that team. Baseball Stars is like the original first game where you can like build your own team. You would win a game. If you beat like the lovely ladies, you didn't make that much money. But if you beat like some other team, you got a little bit more money.
Right. You got compensated based on the level of competition.
Yeah, Baseball Stars was my favorite baseball game. So if anybody can remember the names of the team from Baseball Stars, that's my question today. Okay?
Okay.
All right, what else we got today? July 1st, the NBA locks out its players in 1995 at 12:01. It's the first work stoppage in league history. Seemingly rebounded from that. Like, of all the lockouts, I feel like the NBA one didn't affect them as much.
I mean, I think it affected them, but in different ways. You know what I mean? Like each it seems like each stoppage impacted these leagues differently.
Well, it's funny because on 2011, July 1, the NBA locked out its players.
Yeah, and they're better off now.
2011, 2012, the season was in jeopardy.
Back in 2011, half the league was financially in the negative in the NBA when they locked out. A decade later, every team is worth over $1 billion.
Yeah, I mean, the league is in a much better place today, which is interesting because, I mean, you can make an argument that, like, the Jordan, and then after Jordan, the league kind of went through a little bit of a clunky period, and then Kobe, and then LeBron was, like, right there. And then LeBron has been, like, say what you want, no LeBron in these finals. You into him?
Oh, I'm in because I love this Suns team. I'm bought into this Suns team. I'm all in.
Wow.
I love watching them play. Chris Paul's been great. It's a great story. Devin Booker's a superstar at this point. DeAndre Ayton, I think, has really shown a lot of people that he's more than just an athletic big man. He's not just a Clint Capella.
Yeah, he was the first pick in the draft. Like, you don't think of that, though.
Right.
It's interesting. You don't think of him as like, oh, he's the first pick in the draft. Like, Ben Simmons is the first pick in the draft, so the Sixers fans think of him that he has to be a superstar.
Right.
The Suns have the right mentality. Ayton is a high-level role player for them.
And by the way, Devin Booker was not the number one pick in the draft.
No, he was 13.
Right.
Well, I saw, and Nadeau's my boy. The BMOC, his tweet last night needed some context. Did you see his tweet?
No, I didn't, but I could only imagine.
Well, he said the Sixers could have had Monty Williams. They chose Brett Brown. They could have had Devin Booker. They chose Okafor. They could have had Bridges, and they chose Zaire Smith.
The third one's right.
They
could have kept Mikal
They could have,
Bridges.
but they didn't trade him for Smith. They traded him for the first round pick they got.
But they didn't have to.
They didn't have to, but it wasn't that they wanted Zaire Smith.
Let's
they wanted the first round pick.
Let's not forget that was that Sixers front office cabal where it was like Brett Brown in a room full of 20 people making decisions.
Right, but
so who really knows what would have happened?
But
if
my
a
point
regular
is
GM was
the
in charge?
trade was not Bridges for Smith. It was Bridges for the first round pick.
Okay, now you're being literal with Josh over here.
Well, I'm saying that's the context. Yeah, if you said Bridges for Smith, that was an awful trade. But they didn't make the trade for Smith. They made the trade to get the first round pick.
Correct. But the point is that you could have kept Bridges and done without the pick.
Right, but as I said before, you have that pick got you Tobias Harris. Who's better, Harris or Bridges?
I mean, Harris is a better overall player.
Of course he is.
But you would have kept Bridges and probably saved some money to spend it elsewhere.
Right, but are you a better team if you don't have Harris but you have Bridges? Who's the secondary scorer on this team if you don't have Harris? Now, you might say, well, Harris isn't good enough.
But yes, if you're doing a literal one or the other, that's correct. But I think a team would have been built differently.
There's no question. But I'm saying but that's why the trade that Nadeau is throwing out there is not accurate to say. They could have had this guy. They chose this guy. No, they chose to get the first-round pick, not because they wanted this one-for-one player swap.
I understand that. I just think the other two are much more ridiculous points by him. Because, first of all, they didn't pick Brett Brown over Monty Williams. Monty Williams, people forget, was out of the league for a while because of a family tragedy. And then he got back into the coaching ranks to kind of just get his mind off of things. It wasn't like the Sixers chose between Monty Williams and Brett Brown when they hired him.
No.
And then on the flip
give
side,
Brett Brown credit. He got Monty Williams to come coach.
He got Monty to come to him to coach.
Yeah.
The other flip side of it is people love to be 20/20 when it comes to hindsight, okay? I'm sorry, but nobody was drafting Devin Booker top 5 that year.
No.
No one.
No.
By the way, Devin Booker didn't even start for Kentucky. Go back and watch those Kentucky teams. He wasn't even starting most of the year. So you're going to tell me a guy doesn't start most of the year. You're going to draft him top 5 in the NBA draft? Come on. Stop.
No. The 2015 NBA draft, if you recall, the Sixers had the third pick. Karl Anthony Towns went 1.
Right.
D'Angelo Russell went 2. Okafor was 3. Porzingis was 4. So you would have taken Porzingis before you took Booker, right?
Oh, yeah. That year, yeah.
Now, the rest of the guys after that, Hazonia, not very good. Willie Cauley-Stein, role player. Moutier, might be out of the league. Stanley Johnson, not good. Kaminsky, I think he might be done. Winslow's been hurt. Miles Turner.
What do all those guys you just named have in common, aside from Hazonia? They all were starters for their college teams. Booker wasn't starting the whole year. People forget these things. They conveniently forget that in the moment, the big deal with Devin Booker is he went to the combine, he impressed, he interviewed very, very well. Teams were very impressed with him. Calipari gave him a huge ringing endorsement coming out of college. And that's why he ended up being a lottery pick. People didn't know who Devin Booker was a year before that draft.
No, you couldn't take Devin Booker third.
Everybody knew.
Hindsight 2020, you would probably take Booker second right now.
Right, hindsight.
I mean, I don't know. If you had the first pick of that draft, you taking Karl Anthony Towns or Devin Booker?
I mean, I'm picking Booker, but I can see a lot of teams picking Karl Anthony.
Right, they would be the top 2, and then Porzingis, D'Angelo Russell would be your top 4. It would be Towns, Booker, Porzingis, Russell.
But in the moments,
but you couldn't take Devin Booker number 3.
Exactly. So when people come up with these points, like people always talk about Giannis, right? Giannis was a nobody before he got drafted. He took him 4 years to develop into the player that he
Well, that's
became.
like saying, right, the Sixers could have had Giannis in the 2013
Yeah,
draft.
so could 13 other teams.
I think he was drafted further than that. And wasn't he the 16th pick?
I think it was 15, actually. I think it was like right
2013 draft. Giannis Antetokounmpo went 15.
I was right. Wow.
The Sixers took Michael Carter-Williams 11. Right. So you could say, yeah, they could have taken. Now, Michael Carter-Williams was the Rookie of the Year. So essentially, for that 1 year, they did take the right guy.
Exactly. It took Giannis 4 years to turn into something. And by the way, they ended up trading Michael Carter-Williams for he lost value.
On this day, 2018, LeBron James signs with the Lakers. 4 years, $153 million.
Did you see Michael Carter-Williams get in trouble with the NBA?
No. He's still in the NBA?
Yeah, he's playing for the Magic. So he posted a picture of him working out, talking about how he's making gains. And the NBA the next day sent a drug tester to test him for PEDs.
And was he positive?
He's clean. But apparently somebody in the league was suspicious.
Joe DiMaggio on his way to a record 56 ties Willie Keeler's 44-game MLB hit streak. We talked about this the other day. The 56 is probably one of the most unbreakables.
It's untouchable.
Whoa.
It's never going to happen.
Never.
It just can't. You're talking about something that, first of all, you need guys to play 56 straight days, which almost never happens anymore.
Well, if you're having a hit streak.
Guys get off every 2 weeks.
If you have a day off, your hit streak stays.
Well, it should, but people hold it against you. So you got the perception of you. That,
Right, but the 56-game hitting streak isn't because he played 56 straight days.
Well, DiMaggio did. Well, it's really game. Yeah, obviously like off days, but I mean not like off from play. I mean off on the schedule. And the second problem is everybody wants to hit home runs. There's no consistency with the hitters anymore. Nobody swings for contact.
Yeah, I wonder if that at some point is going to change back. If we're going to see that kind of change again.
I hope so. People like Rhys Hoskins have no interest for it.
On this day, 1982, Cal Ripken makes the first of his record 2,216 consecutive starts. How about that?
That won't be touched either.
Not the way these guys sit out.
Oh, they're all, I need a day off. I need time.
On this day in 1987, WFAN New York becomes the first all-sports radio station.
That's why we have jobs there.
That's where we'll end today. Actually, a couple other ones I like. 1997, the Winnipeg Jets officially become the Phoenix Coyotes. I like that kind of stuff. 1997, the Nevada Athletic Commission suspends Mike Tyson and withholds $20 million for biting Evander Holyfield's ear. 2005, pitcher Kenny Rogers is suspended 20 games and fined $50,000 for shoving a cameraman.
Kenny Rogers threw a perfect game.
Really?
Yeah.
Kenny Rogers. Unbelievable.
That 96 Yankees pitching staff was the most bizarre pitching staff to win a World Series, is it not?
Which year?
96. Kenny Rogers, Jimmy Key, David Cohn.
Jimmy Key was great.
Washed up Dwight Gooden.
All right, tomorrow we'll do it again. Here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. All right, when we come back, yesterday we asked you a question. You guys answered it, but I never got a chance to give your answers because you gave me so many answers that I didn't get a chance to read them. So I promise you I will read off your answers from yesterday. The question was 5 movies that you are confident that you have seen at least 10 times. 5 movies you are confident you have seen at least 10 times. I will read off your answers from yesterday, and I'll read off mine again. Josh, you can give yours. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. 447. So yesterday on the show, we asked you a pretty simple question. Give me 5 movies that you have seen, you are confident you have seen 10 times. 5 movies you are confident that you have seen 10 times. So yesterday we got a ton of answers on this. I never got a chance. There was so many answers, I didn't get a chance to answer almost all of them. I only got a chance to kind of take a look at a few. So I do want to read off some of the answers. Now, I gave mine yesterday. I'll read them off again, right? Now, you said you had a ton. I have more than the 5 I gave, but these are the first 5 that came to my mind. Now, Elle Duncan is the SportsCenter anchor. She is the one that's tweeted this out, the question, and I saw the question. I said, okay, I'll play along. 5 movies that you are confident that you have seen at least 10 times. So the answer for me were pretty simple. All right. Shawshank Redemption, Jaws. I can't believe Todd he couldn't answer this question. Like, boom. That's all he does is watch movies. He watches every movie. Shawshank Redemption, Jaws, Back to the Future, Rocky, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. They're my 5 that I'm confident I've seen at least 10 times. Now, there's plenty more, but they're the first 5 that just bang, that came off, that rolled off. All right?
Right.
So what are 5 movies you're confident you have seen at least 10 times?
So I came to this realization on game night last night. And apparently my mother was listening to the show yesterday.
Is that normal?
She frequents in and out.
Okay. I did not know your mother was a sports talk fan.
Well, no, but she's a me fan. So, and she likes the fact that we're on YouTube now. She's always watching shows on YouTube. So,
okay.
And she emphasized the point that I brought up yesterday, which is pretty much if it's a movie franchise, I've watched it more than 10 times because I rewatch everything multiple times before the next movie comes out. So whether it's the Jurassic Park movies, whether it's all the Marvel movies, whether it's the Dark Knight trilogy, whether it's the Fast and Furious series, I pretty much probably watched all of those movies more than 10 times.
Now, are you like sitting on the couch watching a movie on the weekend? Are you a perpetual movie watcher? Or do you just like, there's nothing on, I'm going to go to a movie?
All the above. It depends on what I have going on. Depends on what sports are on TV. Like, obviously, this time of year, I'm watching a lot more stuff because there's less sports on. You know, there's no football on. The NBA is down to basically a couple games here and there.
Well, the NBA is done right now.
Well, there's only one game.
No, I'm saying normally.
Well, yeah, normally that's
the
true.
NBA is
right.
done. The NHL's over. There's only baseball going on.
Right. Like during football season, I watch a lot less stuff.
Sure.
But during non-football season, I watch more stuff. So it's all of the above for me.
All right. So we asked you yesterday 5 movies you are confident you have seen at least 10 times. Okay.
I've been looking forward to these answers.
All right. Yeah. Because I feel like I don't see any movies. Like, I just don't watch a lot of movies.
You also have your stable of movies, too.
Well, yes and no. I just don't. I mean, I've seen those movies, and I don't watch a lot of movies, but they're on TV a lot. Jaws is on. Shawshank is on. Ferris Bueller is on. Back to the Future is always on.
Right. You're the person who says you flip through the channels and you say, that I remember that movie. I'm going to sit down and watch it.
Yeah. I mean, when it's like one of those things, it's like a movie that keeps you on the couch. Those 5 are on. Rocky's always on. All right. 5 movies you have seen, you are confident you've seen 10 times. All right, let's go to the text board. Corey says, Coming to America. I've seen that maybe once or twice.
I've seen it a couple times. Good movie.
Apocalypto.
I saw it once. I will never see it again.
And you've seen it 10 times?
That's, wow.
Brother, Where Art Thou?
Okay.
Never seen it. Pulp Fiction.
Good pull. Strong.
Seen it once or twice.
I've seen it a couple times.
Scarface. Never seen Scarface.
I've seen Scarface almost 10 times.
Really?
Yeah. Love that movie.
Goodfellas. I've definitely seen Goodfellas at least 10 times.
Goodfellas is a good pull.
10 times. Way over 10 times. I've seen Goodfellas way over 10 times.
So of that list, you feel Goodfellas is the best of the list there?
This is a different guy. He has Pulp Fiction, Scarface, Goodfellas, Vacation. I've seen Vacation over 10 times.
Okay.
And Step Brothers. I've never seen Step Brothers.
Step
Who's in
Brothers. Step Brothers is Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly.
I feel like I like John C. Reilly.
It's a funny movie. I think you would enjoy it.
Vacation, the vacation, like the Christmas Vacation, definitely seen over 10 times.
Right.
Yeah. Goodfellas, I've definitely seen over 10 times. Casino, I've seen over 10 times.
It's a good pull by you. Casino.
The
there you
Departed,
go.
I've seen over 10 times.
I know you love The Departed.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Scarface, I've never seen, though. Is that bad?
That's very surprising considering the other movies you just named.
Keith says Christmas Story. That's on every Christmas. I've seen that over 100 times.
I don't really care for Christmas Story.
But you had to have seen it.
I've seen it, but I'm not going to watch it ever again.
Well, it's just on all day.
You have to watch it. You can watch something else.
Yeah, it's
we all got
on.
streaming platforms. You can jump on something else.
It's like tradition. Goodfellas, that's about it. Keith, you're telling me you've only seen 2 movies at least 10 times. How is that possible? All right. This guy says The Wizard of Oz. I'm imagining it's a guy.
Sounds like my dad.
Wizard of Oz, I've definitely seen more than 10 times. The Sands of Iwo Jima.
Oh, that's that World War II movie.
Yeah, but you've seen that 10 times?
I mean, maybe he really likes it.
The Quiet Man and Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. It's an interesting group of things there. All right, Justin and May's Landing. The Dark Knight.
There you go.
That's yours, right?
Yep.
Goodfellas. I've seen that 10 times.
There you go.
The Departed. I've seen that 10 times.
Mm-hmm.
The Birdcage. I've never seen that.
I don't think I've ever seen Birdcage
It's
that
a good
many
segment
times.
for Pete Thompson, by the way.
Save it for tomorrow happy hour.
Right? Black Hawk Down.
I've seen that a couple times. Not 10 times, though.
Pulp Fiction.
Good pull.
Good Will Hunting.
I haven't heard that one yet.
Have you seen it 10 times?
No.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
I haven't seen that movie, actually.
Star Wars Episode 5.
Okay, so he likes The Empire Strikes Back a lot, apparently.
Is that the precursor, the prequel to Empire Strikes Back?
No, that is Empire Strikes Back, Episode 5. Episode 4 is New Hope. That was the very original
I have not
one.
seen any of the new Star Wars.
The original 3 were episodes 4, 5, 6.
Wait a second. So Star Wars, just regular Star Wars,
Yes.
is what?
Is actually episode 4.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
Yeah. They
Empire Strikes Back
is 5. But it's
Return
number
of the
2.
Jedi?
That's the 3rd movie, but that's episode 6.
And we're supposed to know this? Like those were when we were kids, or I was a kid.
Yeah, but people, there's a whole long, ridiculous reason why they did it that way.
Avengers Endgame.
That's my world, man. Let's go.
Yeah. Never seen them. I don't know that series. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's basically 20 episodes at this point. Episode
Mike,
21 comes out next weekend.
here's an interesting text. Mike, as a day one listener, Mike, you've disclosed repeatedly you don't watch movies. That is very perceptive. Day one listener. That's going back a while.
So what, 2005, 2006?
Who watches a movie more than twice?
A lot of people.
Yeah. They're on TV all the time. More than twice. You got to watch more than twice. All right. 5 movies you've seen confidently at least 10 times. More are coming in. The text board is on fire right now. All right, final hour of the show, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And don't forget, watch the show live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. What's going on, everybody? So it's Thursday's show. Tomorrow it's really 4th of July weekend. It is kind of a holiday week. Our office closes early tomorrow, but, the show must go on. So we're here. So we're kind of jumping ahead of the fun, doing some things that are, a little fun, kind of getting the pulse of our listeners out there today, as always. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. So yesterday, I told you there was a Twitter question that I saw if L. Duncan is the Sports Center anchor. And the answers of 5 movies that you are confident you've seen at least 10 times. Okay? I gave you mine. Now, people are giving theirs. Now, someone tweeted at me, said, you bust my stones about Shawshank and you've never seen Scarface. The difference is Shawshank is on TV all the time. I don't know that I've ever seen Scarface on television. And if it is, I've never seen it actually on television. Shawshank, I've seen so many times because it is on TV so many times. Not because I'm saying it's better or anything, although I feel like Shawshank is wildly known as a tremendous movie. So Scarface I have not seen, mainly because it's not on television. And if it is on television, I'm not aware. I have never really seen it on TV. So I appreciate the text message or the tweet at Mike Gill Show, but that's my reason. I don't know Scarface. I haven't seen it because it's not on TV. Like the movies, if you notice, the ones that I listed, Jaws, always on TV. Rocky, always on TV. Shawshank, always on TV. Ferris Bueller, always on TV. Back to the Future, they're always on TV. I'm not the kind of person that sits down, pops on Netflix, pops on HBO, puts on stuff like that. I don't usually watch stuff unless it's like, hey, I'm flipping through, there's nothing on. Boom, this is the one. So let me read off some more. Guys, order below. All right, Matt in Delaware. 5 movies you've seen confidently 10 times. At least 10 times. Let me see some more of these. Blow. That one is with Johnny Depp, right? I have not seen that 10 times. I have seen that movie, but I have not seen it 10 times. Goodfellas, I have seen 10 times. American Gangster, no. Training Day, I don't know what that is. Ocean's 11, I have not seen the Ocean's 11 movies. Now, the Army of the Dead movies, which is Dave Bautista, and it was the ones in Atlantic City. And I have seen the Army of the Dead. I just watched that the other night. Mainly because my friend, who doesn't have cable, so I should never listen to his picks anymore, he said, oh, you should watch it. It's good. I watched the Army of the Dead. My girlfriend says to me, oh, this is basically like Ocean's 11, but with a different theme. So I have not seen any of the Ocean's 11 series. None of them. Kyle Dubray is watching the show on YouTube. He says Scarface did come on TV, but by that time we didn't care because it was super censored. So yeah, I don't know what channel Scarface would have been on. Like if Scarface was airing on television, I did not see it. Jeffrey Johnson is watching on YouTube. He says Dirty Harry, Apocalypse Now, Deer Hunter. I have not seen any of these movies, dude. What movie? You've watched these movies at least 10 times each? Are you kidding me? All right, I'm trying to read off all. I got so many texts yesterday. I'm trying to get to them. All right. Birdcage's Laugh Out Loud funny, Mike. I have heard the Birdcage is pretty funny. I have not seen Birdcage, but I have heard it's pretty funny. What else? Keegan from Upper Township. Remember the Titans? I think Josh had Remember the Titans. I don't know where Josh went. He just kind of he vanished from the studio. I don't know where he is. But I think he had Remember the Titans on his. He had all these Denzel Washington movies, which was kind of interesting. Forrest Gump. I have not seen Forrest Gump 10 times. I've probably seen it twice. The Wolf of Wall Street. I haven't seen it 10 times, but it's on TV recently a lot. And I have watched it like in the last 3 months. I have seen The Wolf of Wall Street, but I have not confidently seen that movie 10 times. It's a long movie on television. Like when you watch The Wolf of Wall Street, that's like a 3-hour night. That's hard. That's a hard movie. Like Shawshank's pretty long too, by the way. Goodfellas and Miracle. I've only seen Miracle a handful of times, maybe once or twice. I say a handful, probably 2 or 3 times. I say once. I've only seen Miracle a couple times. I haven't watched that all that much. So those are some decent ones. But Wolf of Wall Street, I like that movie. It's just I can't. It's too long to watch that many times. Like it has to be on like a Saturday in like the afternoon when it's raining out. That's when you put on something like that. All right, what else we got here? 609-403-0973. Step Brother, I've never seen. Nightbreed, don't know. The Shining, I've never actually seen The Shining. Christmas Vacation definitely has been 10 for me. And The Jerk, is that Steve Martin? I have not seen The Jerk with Steve Martin. The Shining and The Jerk are 2 good movies, I know, and I have not seen them. As the person texted in before, I'm not a big movie watcher. So the only one on this list, Step Brothers, I have not seen that movie either. Sorry. Christmas Vacation did make my list of movies that I have seen at least 10 times. What else we got here? 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. So let's get some more here. All right. Wedding Crashers. Have I seen Wedding Crashers 10 times? I wouldn't say 10. You know, they're hard because like you'll see it on when you're flipping through the channels and you just kind of stop on it and like you might be in the middle of it. So I don't know that I've seen it from start to finish at least 10 times, but whatever. Probably 7, maybe. A lot of Goodfellas. Night at the Roxbury. I don't think I've ever seen that movie. Rocky is on my list. Happy Gilmore, I have definitively seen at least 10 times. Happy Gilmore is a good one that I totally forgot. When I was at college at West Virginia, we had that movie on repeat in our dorm room. And people would literally just come in all day long and watch the movie. It would just literally run on repeat. DVD. Was it DVD or VHS back then? I think it was VHS. I think we had VHS players when I was a freshman in college. But Happy Gilmore would just run on repeat. It would literally be on all day. So I have definitively seen Happy Gilmore at least 10 times. Wedding Crashers, probably 7. Night at the Roxbury, 0. Rocky, definitively 10. Happy Gilmore, definitively 10. Man, these text messages are just, I appreciate everybody who is texting. This is fantastic. You guys have overwhelmed me with text messages. Coming to America, which I've seen like once, and that was probably when it came out. So what, we talking about the 80s? Harlem Nights. I have seen Harlem Nights a lot. So Harlem Nights, I don't think I've seen 10 times, but I have seen it a lot. First Blood, I have not seen. Is that Sylvester Stallone? Ace Ventura 2, I've never seen. And Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, I have no idea what that even is. Is that an actual movie? I have not seen that movie 10 times at all. All right, 609-403. Oh, there he is. I said he just vanished from the studio. I didn't know where he was. A lot of these movies, I have no idea what they are. I need a movie person. Oh, I didn't realize that you were going to be gone for 10 minutes. My bad. He says, I told you where I was going. Normally, that's like I'll be right back. Like that was 15 minutes ago that you told me where you were going. It's a lot of time to be spending in that spot. You missed a lot of these that I have no idea what they are.
I saw a couple of the texts a little earlier before you came back in the studio.
Yeah.
A couple of them, I don't even know what they are.
This is the best one I've got so far.
Like, I don't even know what The Jerk is.
The Jerk, Steve Martin.
I've never seen it.
Oh, come on. See, I figured that would be something like you're big, like, oh, you got to know your history. Blah, blah, blah. That's like an 80s movie, Steve Martin, The Jerk.
Well, then
The Shining.
I know The Shining.
You seen it?
Yeah. I'm not an M. Night Shyamalan guy.
That's not M. Night Shyamalan. It's Jack Nicholson.
Wait, what? I'm mixing up movies.
You
then.
definitely are. What, did you smoke weed while you were down there or something?
No, it's not my forte.
Still, I mean, The Shining, M. Night Shyamalan. The Shining, Jack Nicholson. It's like one of the most famous movie posters of all time.
Oh, okay. Now I pull it up. Now I know. Yeah, I've seen that.
I have not seen it, but at least I know the references and I know I know the movies and I know the references. I just don't have the time to sit down and watch these.
Well, is it you don't have the time or you choose not to have the time?
Both. I don't watch a whole heck of a lot. Like, I don't have a lot of downtime where I'm just like, in this job, we're watching games a lot. So when there's games on, that's what I'm typically watching. In the time that I'm not watching the game, I coach a baseball team. I'm out coaching that team a lot. In the summertime, I don't sit home and watch movies all the time. I mean, I have very few times where I'm just sitting home watching a movie. So I've never really been a big movie person. That's not to say that people who watch a lot of movies I don't look down upon, but I don't have, like, I'm one of those people, like, I don't like sitting in the house by myself all this time, so I'll like go out and just kind of like do something and go somewhere instead of like the time where that would be when you're watching the movie, right?
Yeah.
Shawshank should be on everyone's list. Forrest Gump.
It's been on almost every other list at this point.
Forrest Gump I've only seen like once or twice.
I've seen Forrest Gump, I think, twice.
Tommy Boy. I may have seen Tommy Boy 10 times. Close.
I definitely haven't seen it 10 times, but I definitely seen it.
Rocky, and this one's great. Super Bowl 52. Now, that's not a movie, but I'll take that one.
It's funny, though.
Right? Super Bowl 52 as something. Now, I have not. See, I'm also not the kind of person who will sit and watch that game like over and over and over. Like, I've seen it once. I'm over it.
I'm the kind of person where I only rewatch a game if there's nothing else to watch.
Nah. Like, I saw the game. I can't watch like an old game.
I do that sometimes.
Now, see, I know people, like when the Eagles won that Super Bowl, it was like replayed and people would watch it. And it's like on the NFL Network, like after that year's over, and replayed and replayed. And people watch it like every single time it's on. Like, I saw the game live. I watched it once. I'm over it. Like, the Eagles won. Like, that's why when people give me how many Super Bowls you won, that's why my answer is what it is. The Eagles won a Super Bowl. I am so over it and don't care that I don't care if they won 10 Super Bowls because that's not helping change this year's team. That's the mentality I have. If the Eagles won 10 Super Bowls, I wouldn't care. If they won 0, don't care. They won 1 Super Bowl, don't care about it. The second it ended, I have not seen it again. I have not watched it again.
Moved on.
Totally moved on. Moved on. The second the game ended was, okay, season's over, won the Super Bowl, felt great, was really cool. Now what? Since then, been misery. Team's not any good.
That's true.
Right? Remember the Titans. That made your list.
That was one on my list, yeah.
Yes. Wolf of Wall Street, another one. Now, Wolf of Wall Street, I say that one's on a lot. I see it on TV a lot.
Here's the problem. The Wolf of Wall Street book is 10 times better than the movie. Like, there's so much in the book that they could have put in the movie that would have actually made the movie better. But instead, they skipped over some of the juiciest stuff for the sake of glamorizing other things.
Well, I like that movie.
The book's way better.
Does it so what did they leave out of the movie? Because I feel like if you're putting a movie together of that magnitude, you would be including the juicy parts.
First of all, the scene when he meets Matthew McConaughey's character, which is maybe 8 minutes total. That's an entire chapter, basically.
Okay.
Like, there's so much that goes into them going into the bathroom, and he's introduced to snorting the first time, and everything that went into that, all the other people who were talking to him about it, or the fact that when they got the business set up in the strip mall, what he had to do to get that set up. I don't want to give too much away, but
yeah.
Also,
well, I mean, the movie's old enough that if you haven't seen it, you're not giving.
Also
the the statute of limitations has passed on whether or not you're
Okay, well, the point is that people should read the book because the book gives you the why behind the debauchery.
yeah.
It expounds on it. And that's what makes it beautiful.
Mike, can you please educate these young kids? The NFL championship has been won by Philly 48, 49, 60. Sure. Yeah, there you go. The Eagles won 3 pre-Super Bowl era championships in 1948, 49, and 60.
But they're not Super Bowls. They're NFL championships.
Correct.
So
I said specifically
the point
Super
is
Bowl.
you said Super Bowl,
Yeah,
not
I mean,
NFL championship.
Correct. If you want to know that the Eagles won more than just the one Super Bowl, they did win some NFL championships,
Guess what?
none of which I care about.
Julius Erving and the Nets won an EBA championship. We gotta give
The
the
ABA
Nets,
doesn't exist any longer.
we gotta count that. Well, technically it was absorbed. So should we give the Nets and say they have championships?
The ABA was absorbed by the NBA.
Yeah.
Right.
We just gonna say the Nets have championships, even though they
Well,
won
I mean,
NBA
like,
championships.
I get it. Like the gentleman's, I don't know what his point is on that. Fine. The Eagles won some NFL championships. Guess what? I don't care about those either. I'm over the 2000. If I was over the 2017 Super Bowl, wouldn't I have to be past the 60, the 49, and the 48 by now?
I would hope so.
You would think so.
Hope so. I'm hoping and praying.
I mean, the most recent one I don't care about. I'm done. I'm past. Not that I don't care about it. I enjoyed it in the moment, but I don't harp on it. I don't care. It's over with. Right?
You don't dwell on it.
Certainly not. That's why I say, like, you know, when you're dwelling on your past accomplishments, it's because you know your future is bleak.
Well, it's also because maybe
I present the Dallas Cowboy fans.
also you realize what you used to have, and you realize how different your life was. Then you start stalking your ex on Instagram.
Well, I will say I think the Dallas Cowboys are probably right now the best team in the NFC East.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm surprised nobody said A Christmas Story. Nope, somebody did say A Christmas Story.
I mean,
We got I'm going back through the text messages from yesterday, and I'm kind of lost place because there was a lot of texts earlier in today's show that kind of cut off the stuff from yesterday.
right. Mix and match.
And there was so many from yesterday. All right, here's one. Happy Gilmore.
I've seen that maybe 5 times.
I've definitively seen that way more than 10.
I've definitely seen more than 5.
Scarface. Okay, now someone brought up Scarface while you weren't here. And then someone tweeted at me that it was kind of weak that I never saw. Said, you're busting my stones about Shawshank, and you've never seen Scarface. I gave my reasoning. Scarface is not readily on television like Shawshank is.
But you have 20 million streaming services.
Well, but I don't watch the stream. I don't sit down and turn on my Netflix to watch movies.
You should give it a try sometime.
Well, maybe, but I'm saying that's the reason. I don't stream Shawshank. It's on television. That's why I've seen it so many times.
Right. We've established
Scarface is not a movie that is always on TV. That's why I haven't seen it.
I've only ever seen it on 2 channels, AMC and Showtime. So
Yeah, see, I don't have Showtime. I have YouTube TV, so I'm getting what you give me. Put it that way.
Well, Scarface is one of the greatest rant scenes of all time.
I know it's a great movie. I'm not saying I know a lot of people have seen it. I just haven't because it's not on TV all that much.
Well,
say hello to my little friend.
That's not even the best scene in the movie.
I know, but I'm saying I get again, it goes back to The Shining. I know the poster, I know the actors, I know the movie. I just didn't take the time to watch it. Dumb and Dumber. I've probably seen Dumb and Dumber about 8 times.
I think I saw Dumb and Dumber twice.
Waterboy. Now that seems like something you'd watch a lot.
I've seen Happy Gilmore probably more than Waterboy.
Yeah, see, I lost interest in the Adam Sandler stuff.
For me, Adam Sandler's hit or miss. Either it's like, oh, this is hilarious, or you're just like, moving on.
Yeah.
Like for example, I like Zoolander. I'm Zohan. When he's a guy from Israel who comes to America to cut hair.
Yeah.
I think that movie's hilarious.
Never seen it. Zoolander?
No, Zoolander is Ben Stiller. Zohan is
God.
Adam Sandler.
Jake from Little Egg Harbor says Goodfellas, Casino, Pool Hall Junkies, Saving Private Ryan, and Donnie Brasco.
Jake sounds like an individual who
Says I
likes a
love
little,
my mob flicks.
I was gonna say he loves the mob flicks and he loves the deeper stories.
Maybe he should listen to the Sit Down from Jeff Nadeau.
There you go.
Now, Pool Hall Junkies, I've never seen. Saving Private Ryan, I've never seen. Donnie Brasco, that's Johnny Depp, right?
That's one of Johnny Depp's earlier movies. Yeah,
Now, was Johnny Depp also in Blow?
I would have to double check that. I haven't seen Blow. I've seen Donnie Brasco. I haven't seen Blow.
Donnie Brasco is Johnny Depp, though, right?
Yeah, he's the agent who goes undercover.
Yeah. The Replacements, that's a football movie with, what's his name?
Gene Hackman
Yes.
and Keanu Reeves.
Correct. I have not seen that 10 times. Die Hard,
The first one,
I would imagine.
Die Hard is I've seen that a bunch of times. Yeah,
Yeah. I have not seen Die Hard.
Johnny Depp
Die-
is in the movie Blow, by the way.
and he's in Donnie Brasco, too, right?
Yeah.
All right. This one's from Matt in Delaware.
Oh, see, you should see Blow then, because the
I
movie-
have seen Blow.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I've
haven't
seen
seen
both
Blow.
those. I've seen Donnie Brasco and I've seen Blow. Not 10 times, though. This one is from Matt in Delaware. So this is for all the dads out there. Finding Nemo, Rio, Ratatouille, Toy Story, and Cars.
I've seen Toy Story and Cars, not the rest of
I
them.
don't think I've seen any of those. Sorry. Josh, that's not a good analogy. It was the NFL championship in 2017. That's what the rings say. I don't think so, dude.
Moving on.
It was the NFL championship in 2017. That's what the rings say.
They were NFC champions, but they were Super Bowl champions.
Yeah. Mike, I've seen The Sandlot over 500 times at least.
Wow.
Now, I've only seen The Sandlot one time for the first time the other day.
Really?
Not the other day. Probably, I saw it during the pandemic.
Okay.
No, this one's. Did Josh ever see Rudy?
Yeah, I've seen Rudy. If
Rudy.
I didn't see Rudy, Billy Schwein probably would have fired me a long
Yeah.
time ago.
I did a piece on Rudy when I was in college.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Billy Schwein's obsessed with Rudy.
Yeah, I heard that interview he did with Rudy one day.
Yeah, that was. We'll move on. From that.
Dazed and Confused.
I've seen Dazed and Confused. It's
10
all right.
times.
No, not
The
10
Fugitive.
times. Who was in the? Was that the Harrison Ford movie?
Yes.
With
I've never seen it, but
with-
I know who's in it.
that was Tommy Lee Jones was the guy hunting him.
Believe so.
Yeah, I've seen that movie.
Top Gun.
Yep, Top Gun. Yep,
Elf?
Maverick. I've seen Elf, but definitely not more than once.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's a bunch there. Jeez. I think, I didn't get through all the text messages that we got. So I will do my best if I see some more kind of trickle in here, there, and everywhere.
By the way, hot take. I think that U.S. Marshals, the sequel, is better than The Fugitive.
Okay. Random take. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Appreciate everybody out there. Sports Bash Live, taking you till 6. Brought to you by your Delaware Valley Acura dealers. For great deals on Acura's award-winning lineup, shop online at DelValAcuraDealers.com. So, yeah, we've been having fun with that the last day or so. For those of you out there, if Ratatouille is elite, sorry I missed it. I have seen a couple of cartoon movies recently. It's the one, the guy, I'll have to think of it. 5 movies you are confident you've seen at least 10 times. We'll close out. Plus, we got the sound of the day. And don't forget, tomorrow's show, Susie Hunter's back. We'll find out which stadium she's been to this past week on her ballpark tour. Back with more Sports Bash. All right, we're back. Couple of things. Phillies game tonight has been postponed due to rain. It will be made up on Friday as part of a single admission doubleheader. So tomorrow, 4:05. You know how many people are going to be at that game? 4th of July weekend, doubleheader, 4 o'clock game on a Friday. You know how many people will be there? 8. Oh, I thought it was tomorrow. Friday, July 16th. So instead of 8 people there, it might be 18. Because they don't play the Marlins tomorrow. Yeah, they play the Padres tomorrow. That makes more sense. I thought they played a 4-gamer against the Padres. They play the Marlins. They play San Diego starting tomorrow. So they'll play that doubleheader next 2 Fridays from now against the Marlins. That kind of worked out for them because Eflin was scratched tonight. They were going to throw Matt Moore, and because Moore can't go, because the game is not there, I guess that kind of helps them back out. We'll see what they end up doing with the rest of the pitching rotation there. 609-403-0973. Thanks to all the text messages, man. It was a lot of fun getting all those texts and just kind of overwhelming to tell you to be honest with you. I lost a lot of the text messages, people who sent them all day from yesterday and then again more today. We appreciate that. So thank you out there. All right. A couple things I want to get into regarding the Clippers have been eliminated in the Western Conference. They lost 6 games to the Phoenix Suns. Okay. The Clippers have now been in the league for 51 years. They have never been to the finals. And this was a team that was put together just to show you, okay, people talk about the Sixers and what they did and that it didn't work and all this stuff. The Clippers did something totally different, right? They did something that people say, well, you don't have to tank. The Clippers went a completely different route, and it's not working for them either. So I thought about this the other night when I'm like, all the people are like, you don't have to lose games on purpose. Guess what? It shows you how hard it is to win because they went out and got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, and they still can't win. So I've never been the person that says tanking or losing games on purpose is the only way to get better because there are multiple ways to get better. Or there are multiple ways to try to build a team. But the Clippers have an interesting situation coming up here. They went out and did something totally different. They went out and got Kawhi Leonard. He got a knee injury. Well, Kawhi Leonard's contract's now up. The difference is you get a player in the draft, you can sign that guy, you have his rights, you can keep him for 4 years, you can sign him to an extension, you can pay him more money to stay. It's all in your favor to draft your homegrown talent. The Clippers went out and got Kawhi Leonard, who suffered this knee injury. So all the money you paid him and lured him to come play for you, you never even got to use him. You had him in a bubble 1 year, and then this year he didn't play. He was having his most prolific scoring season in the playoffs. In 11 games, he was scoring. He was better in these playoffs than he was with Toronto. Think about that. He was better in these playoffs than he was when he won the title. It shows you, though, how difficult it is to win a championship. Because if the Sixers would have gone that route, let's say they had Evan Turner and Thad Young and that group of guys, Drew Holiday, yada, yada, and they went out and got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and played with that group. There's no guarantee but the point I'm making is that group couldn't get Kawhi Leonard to come play there. So they had to find another way to try to do it. Now, it hasn't worked out for them, but conversely, teams have been trying to build in other ways, and it's not working out for the Clippers, right? Who built through free agency. Who has it worked out for? Well, if you go by this particular playoff year, it's worked out for the Phoenix Suns, who, interestingly enough, right? The Phoenix Suns, who, interestingly enough, have not been very good for a long, long time. The Phoenix Suns are a team that built their team through the draft. They are a team that built their team with high draft choices through the draft. They had the number 1 pick in the draft, DeAndre Ayton. Devin Booker was number 13. That is really the formula that helped them get to this point. Now, Chris Paul, who they got in free agency, at one point was the 4th overall pick in the draft. But I'm not going to say, hey, they really built their team around draft choices, being a bad basketball team. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Suns tanked, but let's just say they were conveniently not very good for a while, right? The Suns went on a streak where they won 23 games, 24 games, 21 games, 19 games. Heck, they were worse longer than the Sixers were. And in those years, they ended up getting a lot of missed draft choices. See, not everybody hits. But when the team is good, the Suns made it to the finals. So we all of a sudden forget that they made a lot of mistakes along the way. They were the team, the Phoenix Suns, that exceeded expectations. They had Jeff Hornacek back in 2013. People thought they were going to be terrible. They exceeded expectations. They didn't make the playoffs. They had 48 wins and didn't make the playoffs that year. So then the next year, they thought, wow, we won 48 games. We're going to be really good. They took a step back and only won 39, to which what happened? Well, they got kind of stuck in the middle. After that, they really start to bottom out. They fire their coach. They win 23 games, 24, 21. They're getting worse, down to 19. They get the number 1 pick. It's DeAndre Ayton. And then all of a sudden, look, this is a team that has made a ton of mistakes. This is a team that has been criticized a lot. The ownership group was a disaster. They didn't want to spend money. They haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years. It's a pretty amazing story when you think about it. All the mistakes they've made along the way. But the fact that they lost those 4 years is what really built them back up. And here's where they have done something the Sixers haven't been able to do, is they got their Chris Paul. Now, the injuries around the league have really, really changed the dynamic of all of this. But the Suns were the number 2 seed, right? They were the number 2 seed this year. So that's a great year. They could have conceivably, is LeBron healthy all season and the Lakers aren't the 7 seed and they're the 1 seed and they have, who knows? But give them credit. But what I look back at is I say, here's the LA Clippers who tried to take shortcuts. They tried to do the whole free agent thing, and they got beat by a team who essentially was bad for a bunch of years. Over in the East, both teams have essentially built through being bad, right? It doesn't mean it's the only way, but the Milwaukee Bucks, how did they get good? Well, let's look back at how the Milwaukee Bucks got good. They were a team that won 15 games. That's how they got Giannis Antetokounmpo. In the 2013 draft, they got Giannis. And that really changed the fortunes of this team. They got Jabari Parker in the 1 year, and they missed on that. They could have had Joel Embiid. See, even the good teams, they make mistakes. The good teams make mistakes. So every time when we see a good team, we're like, hey, don't make the mistakes. They're done. The good teams make mistakes too. The Bucks drafted Jabari Parker. They could have had Joel Embiid. So I remind you, when you watch these things and you look at and say, well, this team did that and our guys did this, and they made mistakes too. The Bucks could have had Joel Embiid. The Suns made a ton of mistakes along the way for them. You know, you look back at some NBA drafts. It's always fun to just kind of go back and look at the NBA draft and say, what were some of like the crazy misses and stuff like that? You can't really think like, wow, they could have had this guy. Because like we talked about earlier, Devin Booker was the 13th pick in the draft. He was not projected to be what he's turned out to be. When you get that guy, that's the exception. It's not the rule. Like the very next season, Phoenix has the 4th pick in the draft. They took Dragan Bender. Can you imagine if they actually hit on that pick? Because they had some choices. But you can't crush them for taking Bender, because the picks after them were Chris Dunn, who hasn't done anything. Buddy Hield's turned into a nice player, but he's essentially a repetitive version, a lesser version of Booker. Jamal Murray, really good player. That would be a nice tandem. Jamal Murray and Devin Booker. Marquise Chris, who I think is out of the league. Jake Podol, who's essentially a bench guy. Thon Maker, he might still be in the league. The one guy that you could say, oh, could have had Sabonis, he got drafted 11. But even the Phoenix Suns, who here they are in the finals, have made mistakes along the way. Heck, they had 2 first-round picks that year. They took Dragan Bender and Gregorius Papagiannis. Let me know if you know how his career has gone, because he hasn't helped them out either. They had 2 picks in the lottery that year, and neither one has helped them. Now, if the Phoenix Suns, who are in the finals right now, got it right, they could have Booker. They could have had Jamal Murray. And in that 13th spot, wouldn't that team look a heck of a lot better if they had, I don't know, Karis LeVert? Malik Beasley, pretty good player. Oh, Pascal Siakam. He was drafted in the first round, number 27. You know who was taking 1 pick before him? Furkan Korkmaz. Don't puke. In the next year's draft, 2017, there's the Phoenix Suns again. They have the 4th pick in the draft. They missed again. Josh Jackson. Sorry. Can you imagine if they got that right? If they took De'Aaron Fox, if they took Donovan Mitchell, if they took Bam Adebayo, even the successful teams make mistakes. Even the teams that are playing for the championship this year make mistakes. So you say you don't have to be bad to get good. It sure does help. And it sure does help when you're bad a few times. You know why? Because it's pretty apparent you're going to make mistakes along the way. But 2 players in the NBA can fix that. They already had Booker, but they kept missing. And then they took Ayton. And Ayton finally helped them out. Ayton was finally a guy who, all right, Booker, Ayton, we grow together. And then the big move is you get that free agent player. And that, to me, is where the Sixers have kind of not been able to kind of get to that next step. They got the players in the draft. They just haven't been able to get that veteran player from outside the organization. Tobias Harris, they brought him in. They got Jimmy Butler through trades. They had to give up stuff to get those players. So that when you have to give up stuff to get those players, it kind of undercuts some of the things that you're trying to do. You know, Phoenix had the 6th pick the very next year. Jarrett Culver, they traded him to Minnesota. Cam Johnson, they got in exchange. And Cam Johnson's been okay. So look at Phoenix and the mistakes they've made. And then realize where they are right now. Just because you make all these mistakes doesn't mean that they can't be fixed. I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. We'll finish up the show on the other side. Severe thunderstorm warning in New Jersey, so that's why the Phillies game is postponed, so be careful out there. We'll wrap it all up. Don't forget tonight, game night, Scoop B from NBA Insider from Bally Sports. We'll join Josh at 6:20. All right, get ready to wrap up the show. It's been a fun show today. Tomorrow, 4th of July weekend is already here. My gosh, 4th of July weekend. You know, it's always weird because like one of my best friend's birthdays is 4th of July. So everybody has their parties and stuff, and, you know, it's 4th of July weekend. But it being on a Sunday this year, 4th of July, we're off on Monday. So on Monday, we have a special State of the Team show. I always love doing these shows. We do them on like Christmas, New Year's Day. We'll do the State of the Teams. You know, we'll sit down with our insiders and kind of talk about where the organization is, where the teams are going, and all that jazz. Well, I sat down with Bob Wankel. We did the Phillies one today, so that one's already ready to go. You're going to want to listen to this one. All right, for the 2 o'clock hour Monday, the Phillies State of the Team. Because we asked earlier, Josh, how to fix the team. Give me something that you could do to fix the team. And I think we got 1 or 2 good answers. Out of all the text messages we got today, I think 2 of them were actually
Satisfactory.
Right?
I mean, I thought the one made sense, definitely, for sure. The one guy said you probably have to trade Hoskins and or Nola. I mean,
it's the only answer. Now, the other guy who said, let this season play out. That's the only other one that I would say makes some, like, let's let it finish and let
now,
some of the.
Now, which one was the guy who was the guard from the school?
Huh?
The basketball guard. The guy had the same name as the basketball guard?
Oh, Chris Corciani.
Which one was he?
He was the one that said, trade Nola and Reese Hoskins.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That was him. And then the other one said, first, you have to let the season play out. You aren't getting any value for trades right now beyond Nola, which doesn't make you closer to a playoff team. The universal DH is probably coming next year. Allows you to move Bohm to first and trade or DH Hoskins. See, that whole thing to me is you have to move Bohm off third base now. You can't keep playing him there.
See, that's where I agree with you. I can't deal with him over there anymore. Like the experiment's done. At some point, you just got to admit that he can't do it.
This is good. Mike, what gets fixed first? Simmons' jumper or the Phillies' bullpen?
Wow. Phillies' bullpen.
Phillies' bullpen and Simmons' jumper have been equally as bad for the same amount of time.
I would just lean toward the Phillies' bullpen because I feel like Dombrowski is not going to sit on his hands forever.
Mike, are pop-ups and ground balls easy to catch at first base as they are at third base? That's funny. Because I say you got to move Bohm to first. First off, not as many ground balls are hit to first base.
Definitely not.
The hot corner is not first base. It's third base.
Right. You're not getting at the same velocity.
It's
either.
Fair question. But no, the first baseman doesn't get nearly as much action.
Correct.
So the third baseman defensively is more important than the first baseman.
And that's why a lot of times the first baseman is an athletic stiff a lot of times.
And as bad as Hoskins is at first base, you can't have 2 minus defenders on the field in the infield at the same time. So, yes, I'm not suggesting Bohm is going to be a stellar first baseman, but you can't have a lousy first baseman and lousy third baseman.
Right, because now what you're doing is you're sacrificing the whole infield, whereas if you have at least one of them be great, at least the one can make up for the other.
Mike, Velasquez, great for 4 innings. Put him in the bullpen closer. That helps a lot. I've said this for 3 years now. Put Velasquez in the bullpen, closer, something.
3 years? I feel like you've said it for the entire time he's been a Philly.
He's been here. I mean, he's just not a starter. Although he's exceeded expectations as a starter this year. I got to give him that.
I keep texting a buddy of mine. I'm like, every time Velasquez goes to the mound, though, I'm waiting for the wheels to fall off. I still can't trust him. I may never trust him.
Velasquez?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me in a playoff game you're going to start him?
No, I wouldn't, but the Phillies might because...
Exactly. That's my point. So now someone might say, why would you trust him to close a game? I don't know that I would, but I'd rather have him out there for 1 inning.
Well, because we know Velasquez can last a couple innings at a time. Yeah. Like he's had numerous starts where he's 3-4 innings, he gets at no runs and has 6 strikeouts. But then once he gets to the order the second to third time, he gets imploded.
Adam Kaplan. What about Travis Fulgham this year?
The Packers cut him once.
Right.
And from what I'm told, the Lions coaching staff did not want him on the roster. That's why he was cut a second. That's why time. So you know that there's some maturity issues here. He's got to issues grow up a little bit. You can't just show up and practice well and play well 75% of the time. It's kind of my read on this information that Moshe and I have had. But I could tell you, I was at his first training camp practice last summer. I was blown away. I didn't know anything about the guy. I didn't know his background. I knew he was a little bit of an older player for a young player, for a third-year player. And he is super gifted. And everything I've heard has been good about him. And, oh, by the way, we reported a couple months ago he had ankle surgery.
Right.
So, but I'm told it's fine. He's doing fine. So I would say the expectations are he's going to play a lot. He's going to be one of the top 3 receivers this season.
So expectations for Fulgham should be?
Expectations should be he should make this team.
Well, that we know. But is he going to be, I mean, he's going to make the team, but is he going to be productive? That's the question.
I think he can be because Nick Sirianni is the head coach. I think that's the big key. If it was still Doug Peterson, I would say no. But because the head coach has a background in coaching wide receivers, I say yes.
All right, that was Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan today. If you missed that interview, go to our YouTube channel. The full thing is up. And, of course, Josh has game night next, and the game night tonight is Hawks and Bucks. Scoop B. We'll talk a little Hawks, Bucks, Sixers, NBA at 6:20. I'll back tomorrow. Susie Hunter's back tomorrow with her ballpark tour. Happy Hour Friday tomorrow with PT. Have a great night, everybody.